Hello everyone and welcome into our latest live broadcast. Today it's Sunday the 15th of March 2026. I'm CareyHolzman and thank you all for joining us today. I've got a new computer to review for you, a new mini PC, and I might be getting confused because I thought I was getting a mid-range PC and instead I got exactly the opposite of what I thought I was getting, which is fine. I'm not complaining, but if you were looking forward to a mid-range PC, what we have is a high-end PC, and we also have a budget PC. So apparently it's the opposite of what I said, not a mid-range. However, it's interesting to see what you can get for the money today when you consider the price differential between a budget computer and a high-end computer. I suppose it's always been about twice the price, but 3 to 4 times the power. So we're going to look at that today with the ACEMAGIC. This is the Matrix Mini M5 that was sent to us, and as you can see, I keep it all still shrink wrapped. We do the full unboxing live, unrehearsed, on camera, so that you get my genuine reaction and response to it. Plus, if you decide you're going to order one, you should know what it looks like when it arrives new. So if yours arrives differently, you'll know if you were sent perhaps a used item or a returned item, or if something ain't right. Like that would be a big red flag for me if I thought I was getting a brand new product and I saw a YouTube video from somebody that showed its unboxing and my unboxing was different than theirs, right? And then my question would be, well, did they do that for YouTube? So by doing this live, unscripted and unrehearsed, this is no different than when you get a package. Are you scripted when you open your mail? Are you rehearsed? Do you edit and do it again because you didn't like the way you unboxed it? Of course you don't. It's called reality. And why there has to be a difference, there's like some unspoken rule that if you're making video, you have to make it phony, you have to make it perfect, you have to edit, rehearse, practice, 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 redo and redo and redo, so that everything looks like everything is perfect all the time. I'm not interested in that. Where's the fun, really? Anybody can do that. If you want to practice doing something 18 times before you're willing to show it to other people, I mean, knock yourself out. But will you do that 18 times? I'll do 18 different mini PC reviews where you're still working on the one. That's fine. It's fine. But I really prefer reality. So that's why I do this. I feel like there's a big shortage of reality in the world, especially in online media. So I'm here to represent reality. For better or for worse, warts and all, man. It's all gonna be okay. It's all gonna be okay. A shout out and a thank you to our friend Buster out there in Scotland, who sends us an Amazon gift card, as always, just prior to the show starting in lieu of a super chat, so that way we get the money faster and without any YouTube commissions taken out of it. We appreciate that very much. Thank you as well to all of our friends in green joining us. These are all members of the channel, or what we like to call our sponsors. Yes, the sponsors are you guys. So if you want to fast forward past the ad, you'll fast forward past yourselves. We keep it real here. So everything I say isn't controlled by a corporate entity telling me what I'm allowed to say, or when I can say it, or how I say it, or whether or not I have to get their approval before I show you, or they won't write me a check. No, no, no. I think that this is a more honest, organic, realistic way to share information, so that if memberships are dropping off and viewership is dropping off, then I'm dropping off, right? I'm not sitting there being artificially pumped up by a hidden man behind a curtain somewhere, writing and controlling, writing the checks and controlling everything. Just me. And you guys, of course. All right, so with that, I also want to remind you, our friends over at VIP-URCDKEYs, as a reminder, we have a discount for our viewers only. And the way you're going to find it, some people, they don't like to follow directions. And so I'm going to just have to keep repeating myself until I'm heard. But underneath the video, any of my live videos that you guys watch, like let me bring this up, for example, If you go to the bottom, scroll down below the video, you'll see a section with, you know, how many views it has, and then it says more, and you click on more and you're going to see the video notes. And I encourage the viewers to pay attention to the video notes. You're going to see what date something was published. You're going to see links to the individual products, including the license keys we're talking about for Office and Windows 11. And you just click on one of those links. There's no Googling and searching. And then that way you're ensuring that you're going to exactly the right place, not some knockoff or hacking site. And then you're going to hit the Buy Now button. Now, if you don't have an account there, it's free to set up. And you're going to want an account because it'll keep a record rather, of your past receipts, purchase history, and product keys. Once you've done that, then it'll show you your shopping cart. Enter the coupon code CAREY. It doesn't matter if it's upper or lowercase. You'll see that price come down. All right, that's for you guys only. Then hit the Submit Order button, and then you're just going to pay it the way you normally pay it. You will see, unlike a lot of other sites that sell keys, VIP-URCDKEY takes PayPal. Right there, that first one above the word Mint there, it says PayPal. Then hit Pay Now, and you just go through the payment process. You're going to get an email that explains to you how to download the file, along with what your product key is, and just follow those steps. If you run into any problems along the way, just reach out. We'll be happy to help in any way we can. But do bear in mind, you're always better going to them first, because if there's any problems we don't know about, or if there's something that's not the way you expect, check with them first, because they'll usually be faster and more accurate. If that doesn't resolve your problem, reach out to us. It's pretty rare that anybody has to reach out to us, but we're here to make sure that your transaction goes smoothly, that you're not getting ripped off, and you're not being abandoned by anybody that we endorse. In fact, if you buy any products that we review here, you know, we're not paid to make these reviews. I'm here to introduce the product to you. That's it. Whether or not you're interested in that introduction, whether or not that introduction leads to a long friendship, that's between you and the company. But I will say that I love hearing from people who want to share their experiences with us. So if you have a unit, whether it's this one or another manufacturer we featured, or even a different model from the same manufacturer, and you want to share that experience, just an honest experience. It's not good and it's not bad. I mean, for you, it probably is. But what I'm trying to say is we're not looking for a particular kind of experience, only one that you yourself have had. Please don't tell me about anybody else's experience. But we would love to hear from your own experience in pure honesty. You know, did you like it? Was there surprises? Did you get a great price on it? Do you think you got ripped off? Would you buy one again? Would you recommend it? If so, why? We love stuff like that when it's coming from our viewers, not when it's coming from the general public, which, you know, unfortunately today, there's a lot of fake accounts and a lot of manipulation done by some manufacturers to pump up their products, and done by some competitors to put down their competitors' products. Whether it's Amazon or here on YouTube, it's hard to know what's real. In fact, if we go on YouTube and just look up this Matrix Mini M5, you're going to find a lot of AI videos. And these are just static images that are basically taken off of the website with an AI voice narrating something somebody wrote. It's all fake. I personally don't want to watch that. I've also seen some videos come up on this one with people in other countries that I can't understand. And even in some cases, they don't have the product. They're talking about it. Or if they have it, they haven't opened it up and showed you, you know, how to open it, what's inside of it. So as far as I can tell, we're the only ones doing this. Also, please be aware that the M5 has been around a while, and this is a recent upgrade. In fact, let me go over to ACEMAGIC's website, and let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. Because if you're looking for an M5, you need to pay attention to the specs of the one you're buying. Last year or the year before, they were selling these with whatever the latest processor was at that time. Now it's essentially the same design with the newer processor and actually processors, but they didn't change the name. So you've got to pay attention to the details, and it's usually pretty obvious when you look at the price, right? If it seems like it's a lot cheaper than you were expecting, it's probably the year before's model. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you don't want to be surprised or blindsided, you have to pay attention when manufacturers reuse model numbers. So let's go take a look at this, for example, and see what we're looking at today. So again, down below our video notes, we have our links for the product. And the first link, and of course Mara, our channel administrator, took care of putting the links in there for us. This is going to take us to ACEMAGIC. Let me bring that up on the screen. There it is. All right, so this comes directly from acemagic.com. And you see there's a couple different versions. What we have here is the i9-14900HX. That's as high up as you can go before you bump into the Intel Ultra series of processors. So this was the flagship mobile processor of the 14th generation. And then the step below that is the i7, the 14650. Also no slouch. It looks like there's about $100 between them. Otherwise being spec'd out the same with 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. Those two items right now, 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage, probably make up about half of this price. So you're probably, yeah, I would say around $300. So to pay $439 essentially for what would be a bare bones version that they don't offer, I'm just putting it out there for consideration. It seems like a pretty good bang for the buck. I would have expected this to be closer to $1,000, if I'm honest. So ACEMAGIC is known for having very aggressive pricing. So I'm still surprised that that price is as low as it is. If we scroll down just to take a look at how they're promoting it here, it will display 4K on up to 3 monitors at the same time. It's USB 3.2 and Wi-Fi 6E. I think anything Wi-Fi 6 and above is more than what most people will use at this time. Most people do not have 6E or 7, and in some countries it's not even allowed. So yeah, I got no complaints about that. We'll see who makes the Wi-Fi adapter for anybody wanting to put Linux on here, because it does say it supports Manjaro, Ubuntu, and Linux, which I don't know why it's separated out as something Linux, and Linux. I got it. Okay. They talk a little bit about the cooling system, and it can reach up to 55 watts. It's only gigabit internet. It's not 2.5 gig, which, you know, I guess that helps explain the price a little bit. Bluetooth 5.2 is fairly recent. It is DDR4. That makes sense, especially on a machine at this price point. You probably wouldn't notice it anyway between DDR4 and 5. Now, it says it supports dual channel. However, did they give us 1 stick of 32 or 2 sticks of 16? We'll have to open it up and look. It says there is a M.2 drive in here that is Gen 3x4. And there is a M.2 slot that's Gen 4x4. And of course, it's small. They show it here mounted behind a monitor. A little bit about this processor. On the 14900 version, you've got 24 cores, 32 threads, 5.8 gigahertz turbo frequency, and 36 megs of their cache on the chip. The i7 version, maybe a little better bang for the buck if you don't need that extra performance. You're looking at a third less cores, right? 16 cores, 24 threads. Half a gigahertz slower on the turbo, and about 6 megs less on the cache. Depending on how you use the machine, a lot of people can't tell the difference. But you know, if you understand what all that means, then I don't need to explain it to you. Obviously, if you can afford the extra $100, it just buys you more useful life out of the machine. It won't seem as slow as soon by having more power than you need today. Even if you can't tell the difference today, in about 5 years, that may be all the difference in the world, where with the other machine you might feel like it's time to upgrade, whereas with the higher end, maybe not so much. We take a look on the inside. It looks like we have a rendering here that shows 2 modules at 32 gigs each for showing 64 gigs. It shows 4 terabyte SSD, but it doesn't tell us which one is Gen 4 and which one is Gen 3. Again, we talk about having 3 displays. That's because you've got an HDMI out, You've got a USB Type-C that will do DisplayPort outputs, and then of course a DisplayPort. So you can use all three of those at the same time. We scroll down a little bit about the VESA mount, the accessories for the screws of the mount. If you want to mount this behind your monitor, or you want to place it, under a desk against a wall, you could take it with you, I guess, if you have a monitor you're going to plug it into wherever you're going, and a keyboard and a mouse. And then a little bit about the dimensions: 128 mil by 128 millimeters, 41.3 millimeters wide, and 2-year warranty on this from ACEMAGIC. Looking at the ports, we've got that Type-C is in the front. It is not in the back. You've got USB 3.2 Gen 2. Those are the two Type-A ports. Your audio port is in the front, and then a big power button you can't miss. It even says power right on it, not the 0 and 1 symbol people can't seem to understand. And the back, we've got a standard DC input for power. You've got your HDMI and display ports. It looks like we just moved this lever from lock to unlock and the lid just pops off, which, if it's that easy, doesn't explain why nobody else has shown this. So we'll verify that. That's our LAN adapter there. I don't know why it looks like there's a white line across it. I think that's just that may be inside of the device, or maybe they could have photoshopped that out. That makes it look like you can't use it, like it's got a barrier there, but that's an optical illusion. You got 4 more USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports, and then you've got a Kensington lock here. If you're afraid of this thing getting legs and walking away, being stolen, you can buy what's like a bicycle lock for it, and you can lock it down with a steel cable. You get those at Amazon or wherever electronics are sold. It says it's got a user manual, the screws for the mounting bracket, that's what those are for, the power adapter and power cable, a short HDMI cable. Think of it this way: the mounting bracket, the HDMI cable, and the screws, they're all meant to be used together. This is a very short HDMI cable, so unless your monitor is just inches away, you're probably going to want a standard length 5 or 6 foot HDMI cable, not the one that this comes with. On the other hand, if you do mount the mini PC behind your monitor, then you don't want to have 4.5 feet of cable just laying around on your desk. So this keeps it nice and tidy and hidden. So when you see me test these, I usually just show you the bracket, the screws, and the cable, put those back in the box because I won't use those personally, but you might. You've got different specs here for both units, but they should align mostly to be the same except for the processor. Everything else regarding the systems, same case, probably the same M.2. Let me just look. With the 1 Gen 3 and the 1 Gen 4. I find it more and more common that certain information is not listed for some reason. I don't know if it's intentional or not. This says it has a 40 gig per second USB 4 port on the low end one, and the high end one doesn't. That's interesting. No, it says it here too, 40 gig USB 4. So if that's the case, if that's a 40 gig USB 4, it has to be this USB-C port right here that they've got labeled as USB 3.2. We're going to bring this to their attention. Somebody's made a mistake here. It's got to be one or the other, because that's the only Type-C port it's got. So either this is a mistake, or the picture description above is the mistake. And it's going to have pre-installed Windows 11 Pro on it. Now, what version? We're going to find out live as we unbox this. And just so you know, if you want to buy from Amazon, it is available there as well. And they have a couple different versions of it. There's an even lower version. This is the i5 14500, which I thought was the mid-range machine we were getting. But now when you look at the price difference between the mid-range, one step below, well, prices look like it's a little bit higher here, and then all the way up to the top flagship there at $750. But then with Amazon, you've got that fast delivery, especially if you're an Amazon Prime customer, and that 30-day free returns, which are pretty standard practice with Amazon. When you deal with an individual manufacturer, Some are faster than others. I have no doubt they honor everything they say, but the previous experience I have with Amazon certainly gives me some level of comfort knowing that I can just deal with it faster without any surprises. When you're dealing directly with a manufacturer, they might just be as fast. Probably not. And I have no doubt that, I will eventually get my money back. But with Amazon, I don't worry about it. It happens very quickly and routinely. Interestingly, here in their description, I noticed it says Wi-Fi 6. It does not say Wi-Fi 6E. So we're seeing a lot of inconsistencies on how the company is promoting their own product, where depending on what part of the website you're looking at, what does it say down here? This one says color blue. I didn't realize it came in more than one color. This just says Bluetooth. I don't see the technical details of the Wi-Fi. I bet you it says 6E. Yeah, it says 6E here, right? But if you go up here to the title, it says 6. So they're kind of underselling this by not promoting it exactly. Interesting. And again, we bring all this to their attention. That's why we do this live. We're not trying to cover up for anybody, but at the same time, people are allowed to have oversights and mistakes. And it's not that big of a deal, but it certainly makes me wonder what's actually in the box. Which one is it? But we won't have to wonder here much longer. Let me jump back over to camera 1 and let me get into the chat room real quick here and make sure I say hello to everyone before we get too involved. David Herzog joins us along with Jonathan Fells. A $1 super chat from Jose Lopez. Thank you, Jose. Bortant joins us and says hello, as does Sean Skinner. I see 3D Everything and Marsman50 saying hello. Eddie Casanova and Rick Lakes joining us. There's Mark Baggett and Luke Greenia saying hello. A shout out to our friend Mats Olof. After the show, he had I saw an email that I suspect he probably sent during the show Friday. A $10 PayPal contribution. So thank you to Mats Olof if you're watching or when you're watching. I'm sorry I didn't shout you out at the time. It got by me. Let's see. Ben Laird from Scotland says hello, and Andy W6AD joining us along with Thomas MacT. Of course, Mara, our channel administrator, hanging out with us. There's Ron Barnish and Mark Leibowitz from Chicago. Chris Garrett says hello, along with Jim Kenny. Crazy Larry Watson says hello in the chat. Brian Weber and John Williams joining us, and Phil Stodd saying hello. Scott Messerschmidt says hello, as does Jonk saying hello. Mike Super saying, Carey, will a Windows 10 Pro key still work to activate Windows 11 Pro? Yes, it still works. Yeah, if you guys have questions during the stream, I mean, ideally while I'm reviewing, if we can keep it on the subject of the mini PC or mini PCs in general. Otherwise, if you have unrelated questions, if we're waiting for Windows updates or something, then anything goes, because sometimes that can take a while and we're just biding time. It's both a pro and a con of doing these live, and that's the reality when you get a new computer. And I don't care if you buy it from Dell or HP or you build it yourself, you're going to be doing updates for a while, or you should be if you want to do it right before you start putting your personal information on it before it's completely protected. Taffer says hello, and IQ is finicky. Yeah, I think that our friend Mark Gaines can tell you a little about that. Mark Leibowitz said he's got the GMK Nookbox M8 that arrived about a month ago. He said it came with a copy of Windows 11 that wasn't activated, so I had to buy a product key. Usually, if you do get a machine a pre-built computer from any manufacturer that does not have a product key, in most cases you can just email them, say, hey, my Windows isn't activated. They'll usually, almost universally as far as I know, reply back to you with a product key. It happens sometimes. Peter retired says hello. And a Bikeman joins us as well. Palazzo says hello. And I hope I got everybody. Okay, so with that, let me move some things aside. And we're going to start by doing our unboxing. Let's see what we got here. This is the ACEMAGIC. I'm just making up words now. This is the ACEMAGIC Matrix. ACEMAGIC Matrix. ACEMAGIC Matrix. Okay, I think I've got it. This is the ACEMAGIC Matrix Mini M5. This is the 14900 flagship edition. Let's get to unboxing. You guys are like, he's not talking during this. Yeah, just watch. I am puzzled what this lock does right here. It says lock and unlock. I would assume unlock the lid, but maybe there are screws under the feet here. I don't know. Unless it slides. Ah, okay. I got it figured out. So right here we have a lock and unlock picture of a closed lock and open lock. So you open the lock, right there, and then slide it forward, and then lift it off. And then inside, how does this come off? we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 screws here. Let's see, is this going to be small enough? Those are awfully tiny. No. One, 2, 3. Get over there. And 4, like so. Now what? Something to help it out here. Well, I wasn't expecting that. I thought the reason this would open up would be to get access to the RAM and storage. It does appear that the RAM and storage would be on this side, and I only mention that because we have the vents here, which would indicate that our CPU is facing the desk. But that doesn't mean there aren't some screws that are holding this top in from underneath, but that's just confusing. Let me go back a little bit here, the widescreen. You guys can get a better idea of what I'm doing. Yeah, I mean, that's not coming up. And this is completely smooth. Let me just take a look underneath one of these feet just to see if there's a screw underneath there. Yes, there is. Well, that's a little confusing. I'm not quite sure what purpose that serves. I wonder if they're repurposing a case for a different motherboard in order to keep prices low. You don't have to then retool the factory for a custom case for every time you change a motherboard out. I get it, if that's what's happened here. It'd be nice if they put a little sticker over that switch and said, you know, not used or something, because that doesn't really seem to help us out at all. Let's go put down in here, see if there's, yep, there's screws here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So unless, like I said, unless those screws are holding this piece on, in which case you'd have to take both off, or you'd have to, you know, take the rubber feet off and remove 8 screws instead of just 4, which really wouldn't make sense to me, but you never know, and that's why we do these live. Sometimes things are not the way you think they're going to be, and it doesn't mean it's bad. Yeah, so these are bigger screws compared to the other ones. Right, if I put those there on the desk, maybe you can see the difference. And we better have 4 of them. There we go. I don't want them to drop on the floor and lose them. So now that we've removed those, I mean, if there's a seam between the bottom and the sides, I don't see it. I think this is all one molded piece. But there could be a seam there. There's nothing to pull from here. Let me try lifting this now, see if that makes any difference at all. It is not. I will say, though, the seams on, you know, this doesn't look like there's a seam either because it's so precision molded. I can't tell. And without, sometimes there'll be like a cut-in where you can get a tool in there to pop the separate 2 halves. I don't see that here either. So I'll grab my little plastic spudger and we'll do a little exploring here. Where is my spudger? There it is. See, like I can't, that's how tight that is. Wow. Okay, so I got a little separation here, and I'm wondering if this has just got some plastic tabs. Oh, I can see part of the problem. That switch that I'm using, it's part of this plastic piece, and so when I moved it, you see how it's bowing right here? Because the switch is now caught up. Which that tells me that this end would have to come out last. We'd go to the opposite side here and try it this way out. I'm getting there. I'll figure it out. Okay, I guess a fingernail is going to work better for me to get that separation just to get the spudger in. And then if I pull this side first, and then it should come out up and then towards you guys to pull that switch away. Okay, all right. So that's interesting. This is just a metal plate with a heat sink on it. That's a pretty interesting design. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. And so those screws I removed would not need to come out. None of these screws, so far as I can tell. All of these 8 screws I think can go right back in. The rubber feet don't have to come off. And I did this the hard way. But that's why I do it so you don't have to. Let me bring this up to the camera here and we'll take a close look at it together. Let me put some higher magnification glasses on so I can read this along with you. Let's see what we've got. Well, the good news is we have 2 sticks of DDR4 16 gigs each. That means we're in dual channel mode instead of 1 stick of 32. The downside of having 2 sticks in dual channel mode is if you wanted to bump this to 64, you'll have to replace both of these. If this came with 1 stick of 32, then you'd be in single channel mode, which would be the downside. But the upside would be that you'd buy just another single 32 gig module, and then you'd have dual channel 64 gig. 6 of one, half dozen of the other, to each their own preference. I don't recognize any of these brand names, but given the RAM and SSD shortages, that seems pretty normal for the market today. This is the PCIe Gen 4 NVMe, so this must be the Gen 4 slot. This would be our Gen 3 slot. It must be, just by logical deduction. And then this is our Wi-Fi card, which appears to be made by MediaTek. Now, is that Wi-Fi 6E? It doesn't say, but whether we Google the part number or we just simply turn the machine on and look in the device manager, that's easy enough. So everything's very easily accessible. That's your CMOS battery right there. And of course, a little close-up of the ports right up front. And nothing on the sides and around the back. We've got what looks like maybe the CPU fan on the other side plugging in here on the edge. CMOS battery is plugging in right there. And we've got a bunch of plug-ins here that are not used. I see 5 of them across the bottom, plus another 2 here. So that's for something, I don't know what it's for. We don't use them. There's nowhere in the case to add anything. So, and you can see kind of the copper heatsink up there for the CPU cooler. So this should have really good cooling if they're using copper, which it appears they are. And then as far as that little plate goes, let me grab that. And what they've done here is they have this metal plate. And for some reason, they've given you a thermal pad for 1 NVMe drive on one side. And these holes only line up one way, so you're never going to put this in the wrong way or upside down, because then you wouldn't have any thermal tape touching your NVMe. But nothing for the second NVMe. You'll have to provide that yourself if you want it, I suppose. So to put this back into this little plastic frame, just so you can see this close up, I'll bring it up to the camera here. But just a plastic frame, nothing special about it. It's got these brass mount points There does appear to be screws that were holding this in, so it does actually appear that when I took the screws out of the bottom, those have to come out to get this out. That's unfortunate. So if this, and then this is the switch, if you're looking at the mechanics of the switch here. And it's a pretty simple process that it just simply, I don't understand the point of this if we're also using these screws. Like, it should be one or the other, in my opinion. So if we take this piece, again, with the thermal pad facing down, if we're looking at it from the top, you'll see those holes align, and we'll put those 4 screws back in. Those I definitely did not need to remove. So let me go ahead and put those back in now, because they're very easy to lose. And at least I'm working with gravity here on this side to help us just get those screws back in place. Magnetized screwdriver helps. These are very tiny Phillips screws, and you do not want to over tighten these. Make sure you turn them until they stop. Right there, don't take it any further. They do recess, so if you want to just run your finger over them, they should either be completely level or have a slight dip. Otherwise, you didn't put them in all the way. And if it doesn't feel like it's going in easily, you've probably cross-thread it. Stop, back it out. Take the screw out, put it back in again. It should turn very easily and lock into place. And then when this goes back on, it'll obviously have to go on where the NVMe drive over here is going to align with that tape. So I'm going to guess it's going to go on like that. And remember, we've got this switch right here. So for this to go in, this is an easy way to know which way this goes in, is this switch. The switch has to come out this hole. So you're going to put that in the hole first on an angle, and then you'll lower the whole thing down, and then it should just click into place. So overall, that's really simple. The downside, of course, is when we add these longer screws back in down here, I would argue you probably don't need to put these in. If I was going to do like a custom mod, I would leave these out, put the feet back on. I can't see any harm. I'm not sure why they did that. But we'll put it back the way it was. I'm not quite sure how often somebody would need to get in here, but this does appear quite redundant. The other thing I don't like that really bothers me is they're underneath the rubber feet, these screws, and those rubber feet are going to lose their adhesive properties the more you take them off. So you don't want to be getting into these mini PCs that hide the screws under the feet too often, or you're going to find your feet won't stay on anymore, and you're going to have to come up with your own creative solution because they give you no spares. And should the foot itself tear upon removal, or if the adhesive tape stays stuck to the mini PC itself, yeah, I would rather the feet were just moved over. In fact, you can do that too. You don't have to put the feet back in the far corners. If you just move the feet over a little bit, you can modify that very easily so you never have to remove the foot again. People talk about drilling a hole in the foot, but that's it's usually more trouble than it's worth in my experience. Anyway, I'll put the rubber feet back on, and then we'll do our first power on self-test here, or boot it up into Windows. We'll see what version of Windows we got. And in this final piece, which again, it makes no sense to me. Maybe the thought is you're supposed to take the whole thing off in one piece. Is that what you're supposed to do? No, because the lock and unlock is just for the top piece. So when we put this back on, remember how we took it off. We didn't just push it straight on and straight off. It slides back a little bit here, and then we push it forward. Then we lock it, and now we're locked in. So I feel like that's a little more complicated than it really needed to be, but that's just me. There you go. So let me get a close-up of this. Let's go back over to camera 1. I'm trying to get like a good freeze frame that I can steal later for my, because I'll put just the unboxing part, you know, on Amazon. Will that work? I think it'll work. All right. Let's get some boxes out of the way. Oh, let's go ahead and I'll put that back. I'll put this and this back in here. And the documentation. Okay. Now I have some room to work, and we'll plug our power adapter in right here. The power adapter is 120 watts. Wow, and that's small. Interesting. And it just says DVE in it. That's the manufacturer of the power adapter. If I bought one of these, if I were you, I'd grab like a silver Sharpie marker or label maker, and I would write ACEMAGIC M5. Because if these two things get separated, this will probably plug into a bunch of other stuff you have around the house, and it'll likely cause it fire. So I would not do that. I would not experiment and, well, if the plug fits, it's the right one. No, not when it comes to these barrel style power jacks. Everything from clock radios to other electronic devices, and even some kitchen appliances will use these. And if you plug the wrong one in, you can damage the adapter, and you can fry the device where you're just going to be thrown into the trash can. So not to be taken lightly. I really do prefer when manufacturers do put their name on their power adapters. Obviously, when it's brand new out of the box, you know where it came from. But in 2 years from now and after a move, things get separated and then you're not quite sure. If you just take 20 seconds right now, you'll never have that problem with that power adapter and that device for the lifetime of the device. Something for you to think about. And it doesn't just apply to this device, but any other manufacturer that doesn't put their name on their power adapter. You do that for you. Don't worry about what they do. You do that for you. All right, now with that power adapter plugged in, let me grab my HDMI cable. We'll get plugged into our streaming computer to capture our first boot up on screen. So HDMI, and then I need a keyboard and a mouse, which we'll grab right over here. We're not going to plug in the internet. That little yellow warning that I removed, it's telling you, go through your whole boot up, do not connect to your Wi-Fi, do not connect to the internet. Wait until you answer all the setup questions and get to the desktop, then go ahead and connect to the internet and get your Windows updates and do your thing. And even then, I still wouldn't plug in accessories like printers or scanners or other USB flash drives until Windows is updated fully. But that's just me. All right, we'll just use any of these USB ports back here. And like I said, no internet. So all we've got plugged in is HDMI. That goes to our streamer to capture. This would be your monitor, right? Our keyboard and our mouse, which share the same dongle. And then I just need a cloverleaf style, laptop style power cable, which I put in the box because I have them loose here on the floor. So there's no sense in me removing the wire tie and straightening it all out and then trying to fold it back up so it fits in the box. I'll just use the one I have because they're all the same. And all this is providing us, just like a laptop, it's providing power from the wall to the adapter. And then the adapter, you'll see I leave that cable tied for the same reason. I don't want to make a mess. But if you combine the length of the cable that goes from the adapter to the wall and the length of the cable that goes from the adapter to the mini, got a nice long cable. It's probably 12 feet or so, I would imagine, 10 to 12 feet. So it should reach wherever you want to put it. Some of the cheaper mini PCs, they just come with like a wall adapter that plugs straight into the wall, and those are usually like only 4 or 5 feet of power cable. That drives me crazy, because even just to do the live demonstration, you guys have seen me struggle with cable distance, where you need like an extension cord plugged into the wall and then plug the adapter. It's messy. Or you've got to keep the adapter within 4 feet of the machine, 4 to 5 feet, and it's a little tight for my needs. However, you know, just be aware of that so you won't be surprised if you find yourself in that situation. And pay attention when you're watching the videos what kind of adapter they come with. Does it have a cable like a laptop, or does it plug directly into the wall? And if it plugs directly into the wall, consider how much space there is between where you need to plug it in and where you intend to set the mini PC before you make your purchase, so you're ready. Okay? All right, let's fire this up. It says power, it lights up in blue. That's a nice touch. It's not just a light that lights up like normal. It says power, lights up the word power. Let's jump over to our capture card over here. And yeah, it's already starting to boot. That was quick. Here we go. First time on a box experience. On a flagship Intel 14900 processor from, well, it was about 2 years back, I want to say. So no slouch, even by today's means. English, United States, yep. United States, yep. US keyboard, yep. Secondary language keyboard, no. I don't have internet. I love that that's there right out of the box, because we want you to not connect to the internet yet. Hit accept on the license agreement and enter your username of whatever you want. I'm going to leave the password blank, so it'll just go right to the desktop without waiting for a password. That's really annoying on a live video. And then with that, it should start setting up our desktop. Once our desktop comes up, then, not yet, then we can plug in or connect to Wi-Fi. Plug into the Ethernet or plug into Wi-Fi. So we'll wait here just a moment as it processes our answers and gets our desktop ready for us based on how we responded to those region, country, language, and other settings. I noticed the privacy settings that I normally go through were not there. That's interesting. Good to know. You can change that in the settings area in your start button. Go to settings, and you can change those privacy preferences that we normally see during a Windows setup. I don't know why they weren't there. That's a customization that ACEMAGIC has done. There's nothing not kosher about it. It's more of a preference, and Microsoft allows you to skip that. I just don't agree with it. You know, I think that the customer should be presented with a traditional, unchanged out-of-box experience, except for the I don't have internet option. That is also a modification that they've made that I am all for. So for one of the modifications, I'm against, and the other modification I'm all for. All right, now you'll notice all of our start buttons, there's some items here that are shaded out, and they're shaded out because depending on where you live in the world depends on how that gets filled out. And it knows where you are in the world based on the IP address of your internet service provider, or your IP address that is provided to you by your internet service provider. They're probably in the same country as you, right? So if you're in the European Union, you've got the general data protection stuff, or you're in the United States where anything goes. It figures that out on its own. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to come back over to camera 1. You see I've got my Ethernet cable, and I'm just going to hardwire this right in there, and then we'll jump back over to camera 3 here. And as soon as that obtains an IP address, if you watch the bottom right corner, it's flashing, then it sees what region it's in and can fill those in without violating any regional laws, privacy laws, etc. That's why it does that. Okay, and with that done, let's go over to the settings button, and we'll go to Windows Update. And we're going to check Windows Update for updates. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to right click and go to System, only because I'm curious, what version of Windows do we have? It's 24H2, and specifically, we're on version 26100.3775. All right. And while we're in here, we can check our activation settings. We'll make sure Windows is activated. And it is. It shows it's active. And if you want, let's go back to Windows Update for a second. It's still checking. No, it's downloading a bunch of updates. So I want to turn this option on. Me personally, I want to go to Advanced Options, and I want to turn on to receive updates for other Microsoft products to keep me up to date and to notify me when a restart is waiting. Under Delivery Optimization, I always turn this off. If you're in an office with like 50 other computers, this can save time. Otherwise, it's no benefit other than potentially slowing you down. And then while that is downloading, I will right-click on my Start button. Actually, it does look like we're in 4K by default. Let me right-click on the desktop, go to Display Settings, and drop this to 1080, because it's hard for me to read it. 1920 by 1080 is right there. All right, that looks a lot easier to read. Now, despite the fact I've closed the window, it's not interrupting Windows Update. Right-click the Start menu. Let's go to Device Manager and see what we've got with regards to our network adapters. Is it Wi-Fi 6? Is it Wi-Fi 6E? It's Wi-Fi 6E. See how easy that is to determine? Our Gigabit Ethernet controller, who makes it? Realtek makes it. That's easy. If you want to see who makes the drive, you could always go to the yellow folder, go to your C drive. So let's see, we'll go to this PC, right-click, go to Properties, and then on the Hardware tab, it should give us a manufacturer here. So it tells us, yeah, there goes a video driver in Windows Update. Just put a video driver in. So don't worry if that happens to you. It'll come back. EXT-X200E, so whatever that is. And we can run Crystal Disk Mark on that and see what kind of performance, but it should be Gen 4 by 4, meaning anywhere between 5,000 and 7,300 megabytes per second on sequential reads is what we would expect. If you want to verify the amount of RAM, we were just there and I completely forgot to check. Go back to System when you right-click on your Start menu, and then it should tell us and verify that we do have 32 gigs of RAM installed. And then we've got the i9-14900HX CPU. So we do have the right model, that, you know, things weren't labeled wrong or anything like that. This is exactly what we were supposed to have in the box. We're just verify, verify, verify. That's why you don't want to be in a hurry to start setting things up to your own personal preferences before going through the basics to ensure you've got the right thing and that it works correctly and it's fully updated for your own security before you start making yourself comfortable. I'm not a big fan of this wallpaper, so I'm going to just change this to personalize and go back to just a default Windows 11 theme. I'm much more comfortable with that. It's easier on my eyes. We can go back over to Windows Updates, see how it's progressing. You'll see none of this has interrupted. It's been downloading and installing in the background the whole time. So we'll let that sit. Oh, I want to check my power saving settings because I don't want the screen to go to sleep on me. And I type in the word edit and start spelling power plan. And you'll see the suggestion pops up before I finish typing. So I push enter. Yeah, and I'm glad I checked it because I want to display off after, let's say, 2 hours, but I never want to put a computer to sleep unless it has batteries in it. Since this computer does not have batteries, in my opinion, that option shouldn't even be available. That's one of the more common support calls we get that's just complete unnecessary nonsense. Why doesn't sleep mode work? Well, what are you putting in sleep mode for? Just turn it off. Well, I heard turning it off is bad for it. Just turn it off. It's not bad for it. You're fine. Or just turn the monitor off like I do. After whatever set time you want, set the monitor to go off. That's the thing that eats up all the power anyway. It's not your mini PC that's power hungry. It's your monitor, especially if you got 3 big monitors in 4K mode. That's where you want to save power. You know, if you're not using the computer and those monitors are all up and running. Trust me, those monitors don't have batteries. They go into a power standby mode, which is just sipping a little tiny bit of power that's just a little more than being off. That's okay. What does this want? Turn on Windows backup. No thanks. All right. So we're going to let that run, and while it runs, let me jump over to camera 1. And if we want, we can put camera 1 down in here in a corner, and we'll keep an eye on both things. Let's see. That way we keep an eye on what's going on over there, so we know when to reboot it. And then, well, we're doing that. Let me jump over to the chat, see if you guys have any questions for me. This is the part of the show I was letting you know that when we're doing the Windows updates, if you have questions related to the mini PC or unrelated, but still technical questions, this will be the time to ask while we're biding our time waiting for updates to install. All right, I got to scroll back a little bit here because I've missed a lot. Paul Vercher joins us and says hello. Steve Graham said, I am considering buying this PC with part of my income tax refund. Thanks for doing a live video about it. Yeah, well, thanks to ACEMAGIC for sending it to us conditionless. Just basically, you send us the mini PC, we will make a dedicated live video. And, you know, we're not going to wait 3 months before we do it. You know, we'll do it relatively quickly once we get the machine. And so that's our end of the deal. And we're going to be honest. If we think we're not going to like a product, we won't even accept it for review. I will not intentionally get a product that I feel strongly against. I'm not going to waste your time or mine. I'm not here to be nasty. If I show any product here, it's because I believe it's worth showing. And then when we unbox it and go through this experience, if we receive some things that are unacceptable or need to be addressed, we're going to talk about it. But I don't know that until I do it. So I'm always, you know, right out of the gate, just so you know, I'm always thinking, hey, this thing, if it's everything they say it is, this should be a great deal. And so far, apart from some errors on their promotional pages, which is, you know, not that big of a deal. I don't. And the way it opens up, I'm not a fan of that. Again, not a big deal. And I don't know how often you'd be opening this thing up anyway. But just wish it was a little easier. Alan Lindos says hello. Is the power brick 19 volts? Probably. Let's see. I need my other glasses for this one, just as I put them away. I mean, you did ask that a while ago. I just now saw it. Is it 19 volts? Yes. Yep. 19 volts, 6.32 amps, 120.06 watts. There you go. So yes, if you have questions like that or other technical questions, this is a great time to ask. Well, I've got it out of the box in front of me and on. Sometimes people watch these videos days or weeks or months after they air, and they have a question. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about anymore. I've reviewed, you know, a lot of products since then, and that case, you just go directly to the manufacturer sales, just email them. Michael Lavelle says hello. There's Gary Tatum joining us as well. Welcome in, guys. Of course, Mark Gaines saying hello. Can I check if the USB-C port is a USB 4? Oh, I was going to look at that, wasn't I? I'm going to bet you it's not USB 4, but let's see, how would we check that? I guess I can look in the device manager. Hold on a second. Let me get back over here. Let me get rid of camera 1 real quick. Full screen. Let's go back in the device manager. Yeah, I don't see anything that says USB 4. I believe the USB 4 is a typo. I think the graphic that points to the USB-C, that the manufacturer likely has the right graphic, but the text spec that says it's USB 4 was probably copy and pasted from something else and is an oversight. I'd have to pull out a machine with USB 4 to verify that we do have something in the USB controllers that says USB 4, but you know, here it says 3 and 3.2. So I believe if we had 4, we'd see one that says 4. Since we don't, that is my assumption. But if anybody knows better, you can let me know. Get back over here. Let's put camera 1 back on. Elijah Dickens saying hello. Welcome in, Elijah. Thank you for your question, Peter. Marsman 50, how would the Visa mount? So on the bottom of the unit, there are 2 screws. Right here and right here. And the Visa mount lines up with those 2 screws with the included screws. And then, of course, you've got, what I would do is I would mount the Visa mount against the back of your monitor. Your monitor should have holes like this somewhere around the middle of the monitor, maybe a little towards the top, or sometimes more towards the bottom, but usually more towards the top. And you screw in 2 of the screws with the Visa plate so it's against the monitor. And then you take the other 2 screws and put them in here so that they just have these little nubs that stick out, and then the nubs slide into the plate and hold it up. Just like that. Pretty simple. Pretty much all Visa mounting plates work the same. So the plate gets mounted against the wall or the computers, the monitor, and then the screws, you know, the plate doesn't mount against this. This will have little nubs that stick out and slide into the keyhole slots of the mount. And then, you know, it's wider on one side and narrower at the other. And it just locks it in and gravity holds it in. Okay, do we have any questions? Bill Stodd said maybe just removing that metal plate underneath here opens it up wide enough to get to the RAM and storage. It would seem to me that the frame would be in the way, but you know, some people are better at working in tight spaces. But yeah, that maybe they intend for you to take that metal plate off, but it does come off from the top. So, you know, I might have done it the hard way, but the hard way opens the whole thing up so I can see all the edges and everything. But yeah, you may be able to get what you need to. Like, for example, if you wanted to change out that Wi-Fi adapter, I don't know how you're going to get to your antennas with that frame around it. Maybe you can, but that would be a struggle. Of course, they may not be promoting it that way. They might just say this is for just changing your RAM and storage only. Anything else you want to work, you'd have to remove the frame. So if I take the frame out, it's just 4 screws and the rubber feet, and I don't have to worry about will I be able to reach. I know for a fact I can reach it. So to each their own, but interesting that if that's the way they're promoting it, is to take that metal plate off. You'd think they would have made that metal plate come off a lot easier. I don't know. It's a very strange engineering solution that I think could have been made a lot less complex. Again, when you've got
When you've got the sliding switch back here, it kind of defeats the purpose if you then need a screwdriver after that. And pick one or the other is all I'm saying. Remove the access cover so you can access the access cover below it. Seems kind of weird to me. John Williams said, my CyberGeek mini PC is still working great. Lovely. I'd love to hear that. All right, and just still downloading and waiting on these updates. We will have to put 25H2 on this. I may not do that during today's show. We could always do a wipe and a reinstall of the OS. That could be faster depending on how long updates take. On the other hand, it's also more user interactive, whereas this you can walk away and come back later. You know, so if you're not staring at it, who cares how long it takes? To each their own. There's no right or wrong answer there, whatever you prefer. Chris Johnson says hello. Alan with a Y saying hello. Phil Stodd said if they had an instruction sticker on the metal plate, that may be helpful. Yeah, I don't know how that would impede the cooling ability because that metal plate is a heat sink. And you generally don't want any stickers on your heat sinks. But I mean, they do have graphene and other items that actually help the heatsink that are stuck on. They look like stickers. They're trying to, you know, keep the prices down even on their high-end flagship. But I do believe that the way you get into it just seems a little. It's unusual. I've never seen one get in that way before, and maybe that's part of my issue. Is it's different, but it's not different in a better, more efficient, or clearer manner. It's different, but being different doesn't make it better. I would prefer they followed more of a standard than if you're going to make up something, make it easier. That's all I'll say. If it's not easier, why would you implement something that's worse than the standard or more complex or different in the sense that for an end user to figure that out and they Google or go to YouTube, why wouldn't this be similar to other mini PCs? So that, because it's not clear and it seems like it's a little more complicated than it needs to be, I feel like what I would have done is I would have attached the metal plate to the bottom of the plastic lid so that when you release the lever, the plastic lid and the metal plate come up. Okay, and then if that allows you access to storage and RAM, then you can leave the plastic frame all alone. But if you need to get into the edges, then you take off the rubber feet and the screws. That would make the most sense to me. But, you know, I don't work for them and I don't make their decisions, and I don't know how that impacts cost. David Graham said, I would do a fresh install. Yeah, and so you could. Yeah, no reason. There's no reason that you can't do a fresh install. And there's no reason why you have to do a fresh install. There's no issues with this install itself. You know, again, we can go and change the privacy settings in the control panel. It's not a big deal. It may be faster for me to just throw 25H2 on there than, you know, go through all the updates. So either way, 6 of one, half dozen the other, whatever you prefer. You want Coke, have a Coke. You want a Pepsi, have a Pepsi. You want a Mountain Dew, whatever quenches your thirst. It's all good. So what I love about computers is you don't have to do it anybody else's way. You do it your way. Whatever you prefer. Hobbsville guy said, my B-Link mini PC still running great also. Nice. John Rogers joins us and says hello. Well, I might need to get my chair out here because sitting here, or standing rather, it's got me leaning on the desk, which isn't good for it's starting to bother my back. Let me see if I can get some room and bring a chair. Let me do this real quick. Let's go back to full screen. And let me see if I can grab my chair. When I put my chair down, I'm trying not to roll over all of my cables. That's a great way to have to replace cables sooner than feeling, how did this cable get the sleeve torn on it? Oh, I rolled over it with the wheels on my chair. Okay. One of these days I'll get the studio set up where I can just roll this thing without having to pick it up. All right, let's get back over to camera 1 and let's see what other questions you guys might have for me. Ah, this is more comfortable. I'm just looking through the chat here to see if there's anything I missed. If I did miss anything, like if I haven't spoken out loud and read your question out loud, or I haven't said hello to you, let me know in the chat, because it'll be a lot clearer for you to tell me than for me to go looking for something I don't know what I'm looking for. I'm just looking to see if I've missed anything. And again, if you have questions related to tech, this would be a good time to ask while we wait for these updates to install. Once these updates are installed, I think what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and run Crystal Disk Mark on it and Cinebench on it. And I think that's going to wrap up today's show, because by then we're going to be at the 2-hour mark for sure. And then once the show's over, I'll probably go ahead and let Windows Update, do its thing, make sure we get the 25H2 offering and that everything works like it's supposed to. This is not a bare bones system. If you want to put your own OS in, if you're more comfortable with that, you also may be more comfortable using your own RAM and storage, and that way you can fully control that, and then you can buy a license key from our friends at VIP-URCDKEYs. But if you buy one already built like this, especially from a reputable manufacturer, and I realize ACEMAGIC had a problem with one of their vendors that was doing their system images where they got some malware put on it. That was, what, about 2 years ago. That problem was remedied, fixed. It's never come back again. And they probably couldn't survive if it happened again. The damage to their reputation, it was a pretty hard hit. And they've been clean ever since. But some people, they're just not going to trust anything unless they did it themselves. And for those people, you might consider another manufacturer that offers bare bones versions. And ACEMAGIC may, a lot of companies that weren't offering bare bones versions are starting to now, because the cost of RAM and storage is so much now that it's resulting in a decrease in the number of PCs they're selling. So if they sell a PC without the RAM and the storage, they can sell it for nearly half the price in a lot of cases. But then it's on your own to provide your own OS, including your activation key. So keep that in mind. Houseville guy says, do you think sometime you may do a review on the B-Link Pro NAS? The only problem with them is you have to use your own OS. Well, if you know anything about this channel, you know that I'm a professional computer repair technician. I have business clients. Some of my business clients may be people you do business with. Probably not, but it's possible, right? I don't know who their clients are. Whether it's a tax accountant, a dentist, a lawyer, they provide services to their customers. If you were their customer, would you want your personal information regarding your health information at a dentist, your tax and social security numbers with an accountant, or your legal evidence and details about you that were presented to the court put onto an open source NAS. Now that may be okay for some people, but my business has a very strict policy, as do many others, that we have to have a chain of blame. And the chain of blame has to be one that I can survive. So if, for example, I sell let's just pick a worst case. I sell a computer to somebody, and that computer catches fire and the building burns down, and everybody loses their jobs that works there, and all the customers, or a large amount of customers, have to take their business somewhere else because they can't wait for whatever's going on with this business to get back up and running. Phones are down, etc. So I could be held legally liable. And there's insurance for stuff like this, errors and omissions insurance and things like that. And the bigger you are, and the more you've got to protect, the better coverage you better have, or it'll all get taken from you. And anyway, the chain of blame has to go to the source of the fire. So if the source of the fire turns out to be a power supply, it better be a name brand power supply, not one I ordered off of AliExpress or Temu, because I'll have no legal recourse. I'm stuck. I would have screwed myself because I wanted to make 10 or 15 extra dollars on the power supply. So I will spend more to get a name brand that I know I have legal options should it be necessary to protect my business from going under, because this business made a part that I used that caused a fire to my customer. My customer sues me. I sue the manufacturer of the product. So whatever it costs the business, they expect me to compensate them for their losses. Whatever I lose as a result, I expect to be compensated for my losses. If I can't get those kind of guarantees, then I'm not going to roll the dice on my business and my reputation. It's a long answer to say, doing your own NAS is fine if you want to take on the liability and you've got the insurance for that. I don't want to. I'm just going to put it flat out. I'm not telling you anything other than my preferences. I don't want to roll my own NAS. I think it is profoundly unprofessional and risky. That's my personal feelings. I won't do it. There's a lot of things other people do that I have no interest in doing. You've never seen me on a set of snow skis. I have no interest in that. I don't know why anybody would spend that kind of money. It's very expensive. And then come back with broken bones, or maybe not come back at all because it was fun. That's not the kind of fun I like to have. Okay, so I'm not telling you not to. You want to roll your own NAS, you want to use TrueNAS, you want to use Unraid, you want to use Open Media Vault, you want to use Zima OS. There's lots out there. You're sitting at home, you're a hobbyist, you got nothing to do, or you're curious. There's really nothing, anybody than your own data that's at risk, that's at play. When you're being held accountable for somebody else's data, we're talking about a whole different thing. You want to go in the garage and change your own oil? Super easy, you don't mind. But if you're going to change the oil in the ambulance or the fire truck, and the result of that is now that it can't get to an emergency because it broke down because you screwed something up, things aren't looking well for you. You better get an attorney. So I don't want to have to get an attorney, and I don't want that accountability. So I don't play around with open source NAS. It's just, we did install Zima OS on the Minisforum N5 only because Minisforum's OS is still in beta, and I would not deploy that to a customer's site, and I don't even use it myself. And I had a recent discussion with Minisforum because they had another version of their NAS, and they asked me if I was interested in reviewing it, and I said, I love Minisforum products, probably their biggest fan. But I said, until you guys get that operating system out of beta, I feel like you released it to the public too soon. It has a lot of promise, and I can't wait. I certainly thought it would have been done by now, and it's still barely moved at all in progress. And when you get the operating system finalized, because it's always going to be improved and polished, But in beta, the basics just aren't there. And so I said, well, first of all, I love your products, but that one, hardware is great. You guys need to get that operating system beta moving. Let's get it done. It's been over a year. Second thing, just for fun, we'll throw Zima OS on it. But yeah, we're right back to way too much time involved in it. Again, we have the blame game issue, and then we also have the time investment. I want to take it out of the box. I want a turnkey solution that's designed for the reason we're using it. You know, a surgeon could probably save money and go to the hardware store and buy some razor blades and change out the blades on the scalpels by himself. Saves a little money. And if he wants to use those blades to like cut away a skin tag or something, that's his business or her business. But you better not be doing that to any of your patients. Would you want it done to you? If I won't do it to a customer, I won't do it on my YouTube channel. With few exceptions, you know, when we're reviewing things, we review them here on the YouTube channel so I can determine if this is something I can offer a customer. Is this even worth mentioning if a customer says, hey, I'm looking for a high-end mini PC and I really don't want to spend much money. What can you recommend? Can I recommend this ACEMAGIC? Well, that's what we're here to find out. So far, so good. I've heard a little bit of fan noise coming from it, but nothing much. I think access inside of it a little more complicated than it needs to be, but that's not it's not a showstopper. I mean, my customers aren't going to open it up anyway. It's on me. And do I mind if I have to open it up to change something? It's not that big of a deal. I wish it were easier because time is money. The longer it takes me, the customers, you know, how long, you know, is this an hour job? Let's go, because they don't want to pay for 2 hours. And that adds pressure to me. If I can get in and get out quickly, it's a minimum 1 hour. So if I'm there 15 minutes, if I'm there 45 minutes, it's an hour. That's what I get paid. If I spend an hour and get paid for an hour, that's an hour. If I spend an hour and a half, and I told the customer it would take an hour, I just lost a half an hour of my money. I lost it. I'll never get it back. So when people sit at home and they're watching YouTube videos and they're hobbyists and they're enthusiasts, there's a complete different attitude about why we're doing what we're doing. So I want you to keep that in mind. So anyway, yeah, the B-Link NASs and anything where you've got to provide your own or roll your own, that's all hobbyist stuff as far as I'm concerned. And again, there could be somebody that's rolling that out to their businesses, you know, that they have, maybe they're self-employed like I am or whatever their situation is, and they want to take on the time involved in complexity and risks. That's their business. They're free to do that. My business, I'm free not to. If you want my respect to say, hey, you're not doing anything wrong, but I don't want to do it, I expect the same back in return. It's okay for you to say, well, I don't have that accountability. I can do whatever I want. That's good for you. I'm not in that position. So I just want you to reciprocate why I do things and accept that, respect it. And then I respect equally that if I had that kind of freedom and lack of accountability, I'd probably be a little bit more experimental. Maybe not, honestly. Once you lose your data or once you spend enough time where you get frustrated with it, the fun kind of goes away. But in the case where it could be very successful for you, like hacking a Fire Stick or something so you can stream movies illegally, man, have fun with that nonsense. Because I'd rather spend time making money. That's just, you know, I'm not sitting around the couch all day looking for ways I can steal content. There's got to be something more productive I can do with my time. That not only that, gives me a better lifestyle. Maybe I can drive a nicer car, wear some nicer clothes, or go out and experience more entertainment out in the world. Go to a comedy club. Maybe you don't have the budget for a comedy club, right? Well, what are you doing to make money? I'm not working, so I watch a lot of streaming movies off of illegal services. All right, I mean, it's your business. But you're creating your own spiral there, and if you don't spin out of it, then that's just going to stay that way indefinitely. No one's going to knock on your door and give you a briefcase of money. I mean, maybe it'll happen to you, but it hasn't happened to me yet. It hasn't happened to anybody I've known, and many people I've known have passed. So their lives are done, and it never happened. But maybe it's not important to you, but it is important to me to not live the way I used to, the way I was raised, and it's up to me to change it. It's nobody's responsibility but my own. So if I have a choice of playing an Xbox game or doing some remote support that pays me money, the remote support will come first. And if I play an Xbox game, you know, the problem is I don't want to stop. And once I stop, the important thing is that I hopefully have another work-related item I have to get to, so I have an excuse to not turn it back on again the next day. Because it's very addictive and it'll get you stuck and you'll be spending money instead of making it, and nothing you're doing on the video game is having any difference of reality. You're not accomplishing it, anything at all. And it's okay to have fun, even if it has no accomplishment other than the fun itself. But at some point, when the self-awareness kicks in that you're now working for the game and you're not getting paid, and you realize how you're the one being played in the game, many people get angry when they come to that realization that if they calculate all the hours they spent playing the game plus all the cost, and they were making minimum wage somewhere doing something, and they calculate out approximately how many hours that would have equaled out to in minimum wage labor, I've seen it change people. I've seen people go, wow, I didn't realize it added up to that much money, that much lost opportunity. So, and it's a good thing. I love to see that light come on and people go, oh man, it's great when you're a teenager, don't get me wrong. But as an adult, you know, nothing wrong with a little entertainment, whether you're watching TV or playing a game. Watching TV is usually pretty easy to stop. You know, the show's over after a couple hours, right? With a video game, it'll go on until you voluntarily choose to stop. It's almost like a drug addiction, or it can be. And it does take some discipline sometimes to say, look, this really doesn't matter. Winning or losing this game isn't really making any difference ever to anyone in the world, my community. I could die tomorrow and no one's going to remember me because I won this epic battle with my clan, you know, against another team. Nobody cares except for the 16 or 30 other people you're playing with. Outside of that, it's meaningless. And it's okay. Things don't always have to have purpose and meaning, but hopefully overall, the abundance is something that is getting something accomplished that makes the world a little better of a place and makes you feel good as a person, that you've actually done something for your community or for your friends or your family to make their lives a little easier. And it could be simple little things. It could be sweeping the floor, taking out the trash. It could be washing the dishes or getting some WD-40 and oiling those squeaky door hinges that are, you know, everybody's ignoring. Changing the 9-volt batteries in the smoke detector that everybody is tuned out. But anybody who comes over to your house is really annoyed how you can just live and ignore that. Just tuning it out. It takes less than 10 minutes of your time to grab a ladder, in most cases, change that battery, and you're good for another few years. It's really effortless. And those little tiny accomplishments, what they do is they'll fuel you to say, wow, what else can I, that was quick. What else can I do? That feels good. That annoying noise is gone. I don't tune it out anymore. I didn't realize that even tuning it out was annoying me until it was gone. And now I suddenly, you know, if you've been tuning it out for a long time and now it's finally gone, there's this realization that, how did I put up with that? This is so much better. And why did I put up with it for so long when it only took a minimal amount of effort and time to just change a battery? What else am I putting up with? It just creates this great new motivation that leads you to much happier endings than video games, which whether you win or lose, the ending's the same. It makes no difference. That's the way I see it. Phil Stott said, I'll lend my OBD2 scanner to someone and try to explain what the code means. Then I send them to a mechanic. Yeah, I mean, usually you can plug the code scanner into the car and just Google the make and model of car with the code. And a lot of times, you know, if you tell somebody to do that, they don't even need your help to explain it. If they, you know, are comfortable using Google and doing a search for the year, make, model, and code, they might call you and say, hey, it pulls up a few things, and, you know, ask for some guidance there. Andy said, I loved my job, but I also loved the free time I had to do other things that having the job allowed. Exactly. Yes. Balance. A little balance. That's all I'm saying. I'm not anti-game. Not at all. I'm anti just gaming. There's got to be more to life than that. I'm anti just anything. There's got to be more to life than just reviewing computers. That's why I also do upgrades. I also do repairs. I also do new system builds, networking, NASs, storage, digital photography, filmmaking. I'd love to have the time to go out and actually get back into filmmaking. What's interesting is how it all kind of tied in together. My interests with filming and cars and computers, it all kind of came together with this YouTube channel that didn't exist. It's not like I had this idea, I'll put all this together one day. It just sort of happened, and I was very open to having it happen. And that's why I started this YouTube channel in 2008 when a lot of people didn't even know what YouTube was. For me, and I didn't do it because I said this is the future. I did it because I liked it. It made sense to me. And I had no idea it would grow to be the second most visited website in the world. That wasn't my goal. Someday I'll be famous. No. No, I just wanted to put the information out there that I felt should be there if anybody's looking. But you know, who knew what YouTube was or knew to look there? And those who did could at least find the information because I put it there, like how to build a computer in detail when no one else had the detail in 2008, 2009. And I was done. Like I wasn't planning to make any more videos. And then the popularity of the videos as the following year went by resulted in me getting a check in the mail that I thought for sure was fake. Why is Google sending me a check? Come to realize that was the money that the videos I had earned over the year since I posted them. And I saw this check, and it was just over, I think it was a minimum of $100 or something. And so I did nothing to earn that $100. It's what we call a passive income. So if I can earn that from just a couple of videos, I need to make more videos, right? And just have more income. Well, that didn't play out the way I thought it would either, because they changed the payment process. And of course, with the popularity of YouTube means there's a lot more creators. And then the whole advertisers kind of reducing value to the cost of advertising on YouTube down by 90%. You have to, at one point I thought if I had 1,200 videos in a library, I could make a month's income without working. And then after the pandemic, a lot of people jumped on and became creators, and the money kept getting divided and divided and divided. And then the advertisers said, you know, we're paying all this money and we're not, people got ad blockers, they're not responding to our ads, they're not worth what you're charging, so we're not going to advertise with you anymore. And then YouTube said, we'll lower the price. They didn't lower the price by 10 or 20%. They lowered the price by 90%. So that means all of us that were making $100 now making $10. It was drastic. And that meant that 1,200 video library that could have brought in a month's worth of income now brings in 90% less. Then you combine that with the advent of AI and TikTok in short videos where there's just doom scrolling and there's no community. And now you're getting lost in an algorithm where people forget about you. You're not showing up as a reminder anymore. There's too many other content creators with a big focus being on short-term content. And for me, and the kind of content I make, that is not helping matters. And you know, the bottom line is I still really enjoy it. And the bottom line is it's coming back around to the people who look for this content. It'll still show it to you if you know enough to look for it. And if you don't know enough to look for it, you may never know it exists, because what are the odds the algorithm's going to offer it anymore? Pretty low compared to what they used to be. So for all those reasons, you know, there's still changes occurring. I can't foresee how we got here, and I could not have foreseen where we're going. Just along for the ride, and I'm doing the work anyway. You know, when I'm building a computer for a client, I have to build it anyway. If I'm doing an upgrade or repair for a client, I'm doing it anyway, so why not turn the camera on? And that was how the channel started. Then when we got specific for the channel only, like reviews, I wasn't doing reviews back then because, well, quite frankly, I didn't have the audience and it wasn't my purpose. But as the audience grew in their thirst for more varied knowledge, along with my own sort of personal expansion and of experience for external storage devices and routers and Wi-Fi and et cetera, it's just naturally gotten to be where it is today. And it hasn't always grown. In fact, we peaked, I would say, right around the pandemic, right around 2020. And then it's just been going down ever since. And I mean, when I say we, I'm talking about YouTube. Every content creator, with very few exceptions, gets about 50% less views than they got prior to the pandemic. So if you're used to getting 10,000 views per video, you're lucky to get 5. If you were getting 100,000 views per video, you're lucky to get half of that. And I see these guys that are just starting out as content creators now, and they'll go, say they post a video, they go through all the trouble of filming and editing, they're not live, all the time and investment that takes, good audio, good video quality, good title, good thumbnail, and after 3, 4, 5 days, they're at around 400 views total. That'll pay you approximately 40 cents, maybe. Yeah, it's around 40, 50 cents. If you're only getting 100 views a day, at the end of the month, you have maybe 3,000 views. It's just a few dollars. So starting now as a content creator, at least with tech and the industry being the way it is, kind of missed the boat. You know, the train kind of left the station. It might come back. The important thing is if you're doing it for fun, if you have a main job and you're just doing the YouTube stuff on the side, you know, you do it for fun. If you're doing it to be popular and to make a living, it'll have to be on something else. Usually finance does really well if you have financial advice, investment advice, or if you're really good at making short videos, which I'm not good at. They're very time consuming and difficult for me to make. Or you like filming your cat. Those videos often do quite well. They always have. Yeah, so that's where we're at right now. But we still have our community, and whatever the world is doing around us doesn't matter. As long as we have each other, we're here for each other, and none of the other stuff matters. We create the world we want to be in. We don't let the world dictate to us. We create it. And if it takes off and it gains momentum, I'm good with it. And if it stays small and it's just us, I'm good with that too. I don't let the world dictate to me. I am controlling it, but I'm also not trying to manipulate anybody. I'm not trying to control the world. I'm just not trying to be allowing control. I'm captain of the ship. And if it goes down, I'll go down with it. And if we just keep sailing, we keep sailing. It's all good. Bill Stott said 10 cents earned is still 10 cents that you did not have before. Well, it kind of depends what your bills are, right? So if you've got a car insurance bill that's $200 a month, and you've got an electric bill that's $200 a month, and you've got to eat food, whatever you're spending on that. You've got a house payment to make. If you've got to buy any clothes or, you know, hygiene products, toilet paper, I don't think 10 cents is going to get you too far. So if you've spent 4 days to earn 10 cents, I think you're going to be homeless soon. So I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, it's 10 more cents than I had before. If you can't pay your bills, anything less than that isn't enough. And if that continues for too long, you'll lose what you have permanently. Or you're going to find yourself in a position where you're left with nothing. So, you know, there is a responsibility you have to pay your bills. And it would be irresponsible for you to get paid 10 cents over a certain amount of time you've invested, which means that instead of, you know, getting paid better, you're looking on the bright side and going, hey, it's 10 more cents than I had. You're not even close to what you need. And that's just irresponsible. Now, if you're already able to meet your bills, and now you've got an extra 10 cents, then I'm with you. Then, hey, it's 10 more cents than you had. The bills that you've got to pay, those as a responsible adult, that has to happen first before you can go, oh, well, hey, power company, I don't have the $200 I owe you, but I have 25 cents I didn't have before. They don't even want to talk to you. Is this a joke? So, yeah. And that applies to all of us equally. There's nothing special about me or you. It's just what we have to do to get by in the world we live in. Johnny Weld said, thank you, Carey, for all your great streams. My first build was with your stream back in 9700K. Yeah, that was we started introducing what I called the 8-year build. Yeah, at that point, you know, desktops were starting to last longer before they became obsolete. Things kind of settled down and the systems were starting. I was noticing customers didn't need the repairs and upgrades as often as they used to. And it started, my realization of that started around the 9th gen Intel chips. I was like, based on what I've been seeing the last couple of years, on average, the customers that buy these machines should expect to get 8 years out of them at a minimum. And that has proven to be true. In fact, we just, you know, as a live demonstration, had one come in that was 12 years old. Was it a 9th gen or was it an 8th? Might even have been older than that. So the 8-year builds had been 8 years for a while before I said, hey, you know, I think this is an 8-year build now, because the builds I'd done prior were lasting no less than 8 years. And I was seeing so much of it where essentially machines just didn't need to be upgraded anymore for an average of about 8 years, that I started saying, okay, this is an 8-year build, knowing that was the minimum, and it could potentially be a 12-year or 14-year build. It just kind of depends on the needs of the end user and then what Microsoft does with regards to like new OSs and restrictions like Windows 11, which the 9th gen or even the 8th gen is fine with. Something older than that, I couldn't have predicted that at the time. You know, I can't predict whatever the next version of Windows will require. You know, Windows 12, let's say, that's what they call it. At some point, there will be some new Windows. It may be 5 years from now. I don't know. I have no idea. It may have restrictions that, oh, you need something 13th gen or newer. I don't know. But until that happens, these builds, including this here, there's no reason these aren't going to last, you know, 8 to 10 years. Just basic. If you take care of it and your needs aren't changing much, I can't imagine why you couldn't go 20 years on them. It's not crazy. Sounds crazy. But you think about, you know, it's 2026. And if we go back 10 years to 2016, you're still right on the cusp of Windows 11 compatibility. If you go back to 2006, well, that's a stretch right now. There may be some people out there still using a computer for Linux or maybe off the internet. I would hope it's off the internet. That still function today, but just what do you do with it? Right? That becomes the restriction. Not that the hardware stops working, but it's sort of not capable resource-wise of some of the intense software and things like AI, and antivirus has gotten quite complex and resource hungry. But the machine itself, I'm sure, works exactly the same today as it did back in 2006. You just, what do you use it for? Things are a lot more complex. Maybe you want to play Duke Nukem 3D on it or something. Unreal Tournament. It'll still play it fine. Bill Stott said I get a $5 dividend every quarter from an owned stock, and it still makes me feel good when I deposit it. Yeah, well, especially when you didn't have to do anything, right? Passive income is all good, for sure. Sylvester says, hello from Spartanburg, South Carolina. Welcome in, Sylvester. W.E. Holmes said, Sable the cat should have her own channel. Yeah, she'd probably get a lot more views than me, too. I laugh because otherwise I'd cry. Let's see. Oh, how are we doing over here? Still installing a pretty big update over there. Okay. Andy said that certainly is a nice workstation with that fast of a CPU. Yeah, it does bother me a little bit when people are like, well, how does it game? I mean, it's not really built for that. Look, if you went to a Prius car dealership and you said, what's the quarter-mile time on this Prius? It's not that you can't do it. It's just not built for that. It's not going to impress you, but it'll get the job done, and there's games it'll play for sure. Yeah. And Mara says we've got an email. Thank you, Mara. You're welcome. Where? Sable sending an email? Sable said I've got email? That's not what I heard. I got to practice my cat knees because I thought she just cursed at me. She's actually a very nice cat. I tease. Oh, we received a PayPal contribution from Mark Gaines. $25.37. Okay, always got an update on his cooler drama. I've taken out my Corsair iCUE completely. I was waiting on my Thermalright air cooler to come to find out it was delivered to the wrong address. Man, Mark, you need to keep a diary of what's going on. If you're just joining us on Mark Gaines of Our Lives, it's a soap opera, Days of Our Lives. So Mark orders a Trix cooler, a big liquid cooler for a beautiful build he's done. And he's also got the Corsair fans, I guess, in this case. And the two controllers don't talk to each other. So you need one piece of software to do one thing to control the RGB, and you need another piece of software to control the other RGB. Or you've got to use like Signal RGB or some other third-party software has to be added to control the RGB. And he goes, you know, if I just get everything in Corsair, it'd be so much easier. So he takes out this beautiful, expensive liquid cooler from Trix, puts in the Corsair iCUE, and then he's having some issues with it, like the screen's starting to flicker or something's not working. And so Corsair says, oh, we'll send you a new one. So he sends that back. Corsair sends him a new one. Seems to be working, and then the screen starts flickering or something's up with that. And then they, oh, there's a firmware update, and then he gets it and seems to fix it for a little while, and it comes back again, and he's like, you know, I think I'll just go to an air cooler. It just isn't worth it for all these pretty lights. So then he orders a Thermalright cooler, an air cooler. Just be done with this nonsense. And some parts are missing that prevent him from installing it. So he sends it back, and they say, we'll send you another one. And it goes, I've been waiting for the replacement to arrive, and he's just telling me it turns out they delivered it to the wrong address. Again, you have to laugh because otherwise you just cry. How can so many individually unrelated things happen like dominoes? Boom, 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 boom. One falls, the next one falls, and they're not even related to each other. There's completely unrelated problems. That's insane. But you got to stay in the fight. You know, Rocky gets knocked down and you think he's knocked out, find the inner strength and get back up again and get back in the fight. You will win. You will win. And once you get it done, and you get it done right with good parts, you shouldn't have to visit this again for the life of that computer, or until you get bored and decide you're ready for a new fight. We'll see whichever one happens first. But that really could take the fun right out of it, I'll tell you. Thank you for letting us know, Mark, and thank you for your contribution, of course. Sylvester Sims says, what was your first PC and do you still have it? Well, my first computer wasn't a personal, it wasn't like an IBM PC, it was a TRS-80 Model 1. And no, I could not afford to keep it. I had to sell it and use what money I got from that to buy my Atari 400. And then I had to sell that, whatever money I got from it, because we never had any money. So we always had to sell off what we had to help pay for what we wanted to replace it with. So starting in 1980, I didn't get my first IBM compatible computer until 1990, I want to say. It was a 286-12. Had a turbo button, it would boost to 286-16. We go to 16. It had 4 megs of RAM and a 40 meg hard drive. Came with the monitor, keyboard, mouse. It was the whole setup. And a friend of mine built it for me, so I got it for around $1,200, which was probably a good $600 less than it would have been sold pre-built. Eventually, I had to sell it to buy the 386. No, I take it back. I had a problem with video games. And specifically, I was playing King's Quest, maybe like King's Quest 4 or something. And, you know, when you're that young and you're male and you're turning down intimacy with a girlfriend or a partner because you'd rather play King's Quest, and then that person breaks up with you, you've got a problem. So I got rid of the computer and vowed to never have one again. I don't have to, I enjoy working on computers, but I don't have to have one to know how to work on them. And it was that way for about a year, maybe 9 months. I don't know, I just didn't need one at home. I'll use them at work. I don't need it at home. And that person never came back to me, right? That person left me forever. So who knows what that, you know, how my future would be different over King's Quest. Pretty significant consequences. So just get rid of the computer and solve the problem. And I was doing some work. I was working at Best Buy for a while before Geek Squad. And a customer was upgrading, and Best Buy didn't sell motherboards and stuff like that. So I gave the customer my number. And I said, hey, you know, I've got these days off. If you want to reach out to me, I'll do the work for you. I'll take you to a computer store that sells motherboards and we'll upgrade your system. But I can't help you at Best Buy because Best Buy doesn't do any of that work. Well, that became one of my main customers, a home user, super nice guy. And after he called me and we upgraded his computer, he had these old parts. It was like a 386 motherboard. And he said, what do I do with these old parts? And I don't know. And he goes, well, do you want them? And I thought about, yeah, you know, I could just take the board, grab a power supply and find a monitor and keyboard just to get back onto the bulletin board systems. You know, I can have a computer and exercise a little self-discipline. I'll take it. So he gave me his old 386 motherboard, and I did just that. I put the motherboard on the desk, no case, didn't have any money. Hooked it up to a monitor, keyboard, mouse, plugged in a modem, and used it that way for about 6 months. And then I got addicted again, and then started investing money into a 486 and such. And and, you know, just kept telling myself, self-discipline, don't be on this too long. Because if you repeat what you've done, you're going to find yourself self-destructing again. And if I sound very impassioned about the whole video game and addiction thing, it's the consequences were lifelong. Okay, so in the end, everything's worked out. All right, and I'm very happy with my life. But you also, you know, if you play the game, what if I didn't do that? What if I didn't have my priorities screwed up? What might have changed? Could be a whole different life.
Yeah.
And an email.
As per Sable.
Sable wrote the email?
Right.
Thank you. We have an Amazon gift card for $10 from Bebo. Hey, thank you, Bebo. Thank you for supporting the channel. So anyway, those computers were all sold. Yeah, I didn't have the money to keep old computers. I needed the money from selling the old computers to help pay for the new ones. And that's been pretty much it. The problem I have now is space. I have a lot of computers now. And when they reach a certain age, I just want to get rid of them. When they get to be vintage, it's fun to look at them, but I can just go on YouTube and look. I don't need to have it in front of me. If I want to experience the Commodore PET, I can just fire up a YouTube video on the Commodore PET that somebody's restored and watch it, and that nostalgia is all I need. I'm like, okay, now I remember. That brings back memories. Forgot about this or this little detail. Okay, you know, going to like a market where they sell vintage computer parts would be fun to look around, but I probably would not buy anything. Back when I worked for Best Buy, there was no such thing as Geek Squad. So I was setting all the rules and all the prices, and Best Buy at the time, you know, the computer you would use at Best Buy was a green screen, all text-based. Type in commands and things to create tickets for customers and things. There wasn't like barcode scanner. There was at checkout, but not for like the customer service side of things. And so for things that like virus removals and stuff, it was really up to me if I wanted to do it. Nobody that ran Best Buy had any idea how to run a computer repair desk. And I already had years behind me at that point. I worked at Best Buy, ironically, not as a starter job. I was quite a bit older than the average employee. I think I was in my mid-20s. And everybody else was like still in high school. The managers didn't know anything about computers. They were older than me. And I was one of the first generation to know about them. And I had already been successfully repairing computers. You know, when I started my own computer repair shop, there wasn't such a thing as a computer repair shop. It wasn't like I could know what I should charge, or there wasn't anybody to copy. So it all kind of got made up as needed when customers would come in and request certain things. There were certain items we just couldn't do, like that customer that wanted an upgrade. We did not sell motherboards and CPUs. We sold multimedia kits, and that was a CD-ROM that included a sound card that were usually proprietary to one another. And they might want to have it added to a new computer they're buying. So when they take it home, it's good to go. Or maybe they've got a computer at home, they want to bring it in and get that CD drive and sound card added. Or maybe there is a mono sound card and now they want a stereo sound card. Those kind of things, RAM upgrades, blue screens and errors, hard drives crashing, power supplies dead, all that needed to be diagnosed, repaired, fans going out, that sort of thing. There was no RGB, there was no liquid cooling, there was no glass panels or side windows or anything in cases. It was better times. So that was a job I took because it was very close to my house. I was like 3 miles away. And it paid me basically the same as what Intel paid me. So to think I went from Intel to Best Buy seems backwards, but it was actually, Intel was 32 miles for me to drive to work and 32 miles for me to drive home 5 days a week. And when I worked at TriStar Computer Company building workstations, at my first computer job in 1991, that was right down the street from Intel, just a few miles down the same street. But I did it for the opportunity. And I did it in a car that had no air conditioning. Then I worked for a company called Naga Systems, which was a competitor to TriStar. And they screwed over everybody. They ended up, the owner of the company, I guess, let everything go into foreclosure. It didn't tell anybody anything was wrong. And one day we showed up to work and the doors were locked. And the owner couldn't be reached because apparently he was in Malaysia, where he was from. He hopped on a plane and got out of the country, so he couldn't be held accountable for all of the financial damage, and nobody got a last check. Now, luckily, I got out of there before that happened. Another company I worked for called Infinisys in Phoenix. Oh boy, did they screw up. They, here we go, ready to reboot. They kind of did the same thing, but they had a 401k plan for like 10 of the employees. And they weren't a system builder. They were a contractor. They're the kind of company that would go out to businesses like Honeywell and IBM, and not IBM, but all these different manufacturing, large corporations, Charles Schwab, American Express, that have Phoenix headquarters, U-Haul, and provide desktop support and repair. And they had company cars, and they think they had about 40 or 50 employees. Out of those, I think 10 had a 401k sharing program. And if you Google Infinisys Phoenix 401k lawsuit, the Department of Justice, I want to say, went after the people that were in charge of the 401k. After the company closed up, they did the same thing. They locked the doors. They didn't tell anybody. The people that worked there didn't get any final paychecks. Nobody knew this was coming. It was just another day, or so you thought, until you got to work and found out the doors were locked. No notice on the door, nothing. So all those employees got stolen from, all the labor and whatever they were owed for their back pay, they never got it. And I guess the 10 employees that had 401ks, I don't think they got that either. I think they took the 401k money is what happened. But you can Google it if you want to read about it. Another company I worked for was similar to Infinisys called Entex, E-N-T-E-X. And they similarly provided repair for companies, large corporations, as well as an authorized repair center for Dell and HP. And you don't know paperwork until you've... So what would happen is, say a customer buys a Dell computer, just an average person at home. They call Dell support and Dell says, yeah, it sounds like you need a new power supply. We're going to send somebody out to change your power supply. The people they send out don't work for Dell. So part of what Entex did was they would represent Dell and HP for on-site warranty repairs. And the way that that would work is Dell would send the part to the company I worked for, and it would have some kind of a reference number. And the company I worked for would assign that to one of the employees to go out to the customer's location, and your job was not to think. Okay? Don't diagnose the system. Don't tell us what's wrong with it. The Dell technician on the phone already did that. Okay? So you just turn off your brain, get over to the customer's location and change their power supply and leave. Well, what if that doesn't fix the problem? Tell the customer to call Dell. That's it. You have to do this within a certain window of time. You've got to fill out every line of the paperwork exactly. If information is missing, we will not be reimbursed. And that all that paperwork has to be submitted within 21 days or whatever the window of time was, or we won't be reimbursed. Dell will not reimburse. So you better make sure the form is filled out exactly right. You do not tell Dell the results of the... No. Dell sent you the part, shut off your brain, go change the part. Customer has any more problems, the customer calls Dell. You do not give the customer your private information. You do not disclose to the customer that you do not work for Dell. Just don't even bring it up. Don't talk about it. The implication is, I'm here to replace the part from your Dell. So people would assume, oh, you work for Dell. And if they ask you that, just say yes, because technically you're kind of working for them. You do not give them your business card. You do not tell them the real name of the company you're working for. And if they find out you did that, you can look for another job. Because if Dell finds out, then Dell's probably going to find another contractor. And HP was exactly the same. So I never did that. I never went out to do the Dell or HP repairs. I was assigned to work at places like Intel, or I was assigned to work at the Department of Environmental Quality. So those were assignments I was given. And I was told, you're going to go to Intel every day. You're not even going to see me ever again. You go to work at Intel, you answer to Intel, and your paycheck comes from us. Other than that, we don't need to talk. So it's easy for me to say I worked at Intel because that's where I went every day. Those are the people I reported. But my paycheck came from a different company as a contractor. So I would be what they called a green badge at Intel, whereas a blue badge would be an employee. You got benefits and, you know, all the benefits of being an employee, healthcare, etc. But after seeing these companies screw over their own employees, and realizing it wasn't just one bad company, it was just happening over and over, I realized it's an industry-wide problem. There was a company I worked for that I didn't want to work for, and I thought I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, called MicroAge, and they screwed me over exactly like I thought they would. And I was so angry at myself because I knew it. I knew they were going to do it. And that's about when I had enough and started my own business. That's when I said, this is just injustice, and there's nothing I can do to fix it other than stop working for these people and just do it myself. And the hardest part about that is just finding the work. I'm like, hey, I'm doing the work. Why am I splitting the money with this other company or making, a third of it? And it's because they have the work. Turns out getting the work is sometimes harder than doing the work. So there you go. Also, I didn't have to do any billing and bill collection. That's all being done. So there is a benefit to working for somebody else, but not when you can lose your job at any time for no fault of your own without any warning, and then have that company you work for steal from you by not giving you a final paycheck. I had enough of it. Let's grab my utilities flash drive, and we'll copy over Crystal Dismark and Cinebench, because we're going to run a little bit long today as a result of just the updates taking as long as they did, which is why I don't want to pursue any more updates. We do have more updates waiting, but let's just keep moving. So let me jump over to, let's get rid of camera 1 here for a second. Let's go full screen. USB, and we want we'll just pull the Crystal Disk info just for the sake of it, and then Crystal Dismark, HWI for monitoring the temperatures, Cinebench for running the benchmark, and then we can put on Uncle Carey's Windows 11 optimizer. And I always like to put VLC on my machines, but that's just me. And let's go ahead and run the optimizer real quick. The optimizer is available for sale. It's 20 bucks. Links are in the video notes. It's portable, meaning you don't have to install anything, and you can run it on as many computers as you want to. We only ask you, please don't steal it. In other words, if you want to run it on your friends' computers and they're like, hey, can I have that? Tell them where to buy it. Help support us so that we can continue investing in this tool and investing in future tools. If we can't make our own money we've spent back, we won't do this anymore. So we're relying on the honor system for people to do the right thing. You can run it on all the computers you want to run it on. Please don't leave the software on somebody else's computer. It's all we're asking you to do. If they like it that much, $20 is cheap, and then they can do the same thing, right? So we're just counting on people doing the right thing, and that way we don't have to lock it down with any digital rights management or serial numbers and activations, because that's just punishing honest people. So once this makes the changes that it makes, which you could do by hand, you don't need my utility to do this. It's making changes you can do by hand. It's just doing it faster. And when you work on as many computers as I do, I can't remember did I run all of this, did I not? The tool does it, just automates the whole process, and everything is always done the same, and it's done faster than I can do. So for that reason, the utility is really made for me. And then the audience, started saying, hey, can we buy that? So once again, I never designed the original Windows 10 optimizer to be sold. I designed it for my own needs. And, yeah, could we sell it? Yeah, I talked to D7X Tech, and they said, yeah, we could sell it. And now we're on the Windows 11 optimizer. Again, wasn't looking for it. It just kind of happened. It was something that a problem I needed to solve, and turns out a lot of other people were very interested in that. So who knew? Nick Capri, a member for 26 months, says, Carey and Mara, hello, I haven't been around for a while, family stuff, but I'm 2 years in. Yeah, absolutely, over 2 years in your membership. Thank you. We're glad to see you again. I hope things are going well for you. Well, we understand, families always got to come first, but we're glad to see you back. Andy said the optimizer is a wonderful tool, saves a lot of time. It certainly does for me. Now, why it's taking so long on this uninstalling remote desktop, that's kind of weird. Oh, I just had to talk about it. I just had to say it out loud. It's like, oh, he's paying attention. So it's got to restart with those changes that take effect, and we'll go ahead and start running the disk benchmarks and then the Cinebench. And then that'll be it for today. So if you have questions, this will be the time to ask. We will be back live tomorrow for our members only, as we do every Monday. We always start at 1 o'clock, which is now Pacific time. Arizona doesn't change their clocks, but Pacific time does. So during the summer, we're on the same time as California, Nevada, etc. And then during the winter, for fall and winter, everybody moves their clocks but us. So it's always 1 o'clock in Phoenix when I start my show. All right, let me get back over full screen here for just a moment. Optimizations are applied. Okay. Everything's green. Secure boot is off. I'm fine with that for now. I love all the information it gives me about the username, the computer name, the workgroup name, the version of Windows, including the build number, that 26100.8037. That Windows is activated, TPM is installed. I love this quick information, and BitLocker's off and System Restore's on. And when I put the mouse over System Restore, you'll see it turns into a little hand. So if you want to go change that, there's not a recommended setting other than what you want it to be, and we don't make you go and find it. This cleanup is here. The driver backup, which is built into Windows, is free. We can run the driver backup real quick if we want to just make a backup of all our drivers and have them. That way you don't need any third-party software. PC Manager is a free utility from Microsoft that basically is a CCleaner replacement and much better and safer than any other PC utility. Windows Backup is backup software built into Windows. And you all know what Windows Update is. So we have all these shortcuts to commonly used maintenance tools. Our drivers are backed up to C:\drivers, and we can copy that off to a backup drive and never have to look for drivers again if we want to reinstall. So my first question is, with Crystal Disk Info, how does this drive read? It's an EXT X200E, 1 terabyte. It is a Gen 4 drive running at Gen 4 speeds. Great. It's been powered on 14 times with a total of 5 hours on the drive. So it is new. Now you notice this drive D, that's because I didn't unplug the flash drive. Let me go ahead and unplug the flash drive, because that's confusing. And then if we open that up again, it won't see that drive D anymore. You have to restart the software, not the computer. Yeah, so anyway, that looks good. Now, what sort of performance does Gen 4 mean? Well, it could mean anything from 3,700 megabytes to 7,400 megabytes a second, depending on what speed of, right? They make a Mustang in 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders, 8 cylinders, and then on top of that, you've got turbos and superchargers, and depending which combination also determines the speed, the gas mileage, and the overall price and horsepower. In much the same way, Gen 4 NVMe could be anywhere across the board, so that's why we run Crystal Dismark. And we'll hit the All button here, and we'll see. I'm primarily interested in just the best the drive can do. So assuming the best of all circumstances, the drive can run no faster on reads than, woo, look at that, 7125, that is better than I expected. And exactly what a machine of this caliber should have in it, by the way. I've never heard of this drive manufacturer before. Should you have any problems with the drive or the RAM, it's handled through ACEMAGIC. You will not deal with the manufacturer of the components. Same as Dell or HP. If you had some bad RAM or a bad drive in a Dell or an HP, you would go to Dell or HP warranty for that. That's true of all pre-built machines. There's no exceptions. It's when you build it yourself that you have to deal with the individual warranties, or if you've got a bare bones machine, right, and you put the drive in. When the manufacturer installs the drive, it might as well just be the manufacturer's name on it, because that's who you're going to go to if you ever need any support or warranty. So then what differentiates the good drives from the cheap drives would be the write difference. Writes are almost always going to be 1,000 to 2,000 megabytes slower than reads on anything but the best of the best NVMe drives. And for people that care about that, they'll spend more. With this drive, I don't know what we're going to see. So we're going to find out together right now how much slower our write speeds are. But it is normal for the write speeds to be slower. And the more drastic the difference between the write speeds and the read speeds, the less expensive the drive is. Here we go, starting the sequential write. Yeah, so about 2,000, no, about 1,300, oh, wait a minute. All right, we're within 1,000, so we're within the norm. It does the test 3 times and it takes the best of 3. So 6247 on the writes, sequential writes, that's the best it can do. Now granted, if you run the test 3 times, you're going to get 3 different answers, but they should all fall within 10%, maybe even within 5% of this number on both sides. These other numbers I don't really care about, but I'll put them up there in case you do. Patrick says, have you used Cinebench 2026? If I used Cinebench 2026, what good are the results when all my other previous tests are on R23? You can't compare 26 to 23. So does that mean we say, ignore all the other results and we have to redo them again? Or, you know, just because something's newer, why would we change our measuring stick? There's no way for us to compare R23 results from the machines we reviewed in the past to today's reviews using a different version of any software. It is critically important if you are making reviews or you're trying to review something fairly that you keep your reviews consistent. Don't change the rules just because there's a new piece of software unless you're ready to throw all your previous results in the trash and start again, start over at 0. I'm not willing to do that. So for that reason, we continue to use Cinebench R23. There's our final results on our Crystal Dismark. We will update, you know, to different versions of Crystal Dismark. However, if there's a significant change to how the tests are being done, then we're, you know, we're negating and nullifying all of the previous results from we've done in the past. But primarily what these numbers do is they result in the drive communicating with different controllers, or the software rather. So these kind of updates to this kind of software should be there for future compatibility where it's working correctly versus, if it didn't work right, the test results would be invalid as well. So let's go ahead and just save this image. We'll put it on the desktop and we'll save it as crystaldisk.jpg. Oh, I didn't put it on the desktop, did I? Oh yeah, I did. There it is right there. All right, so how is this thing running as far as heat goes? I don't know. I've not been paying attention to monitoring any temps. Why would I? Got nothing else better to do. But for the sake of testing purposes, we'll go to sensors only, start, close that. And again, we would update this again for compatibility to other motherboards and chipsets in order for our readings to be accurate with the latest core temperatures. In other words, this shouldn't make a difference if we ran this latest version on a system we reviewed 2 years ago. We should get the exact same numbers. These updates are for compatibility for new systems. It doesn't change the readings from old systems. Core temperatures, let's expand that. We're sitting in the 40s under, right now, that's our temperature on all those cores. And then that's our minimum temperature since we started this piece of software. And then our maximum, we're going to keep an eye on that maximum as we start up Cinebench. So I'm going to bring this over to the right. Put it right over there for now. Let's bring up Cinebench and we'll run R23 here. Takes a second to start up. And then I expect I'll hear the fans kick on this because this is going to torture test this poor CPU. But it is designed for this. Just when we're dealing with budget PCs and we do this, and I tell you guys, look, these aren't really built for that. We're talking, running this on a $300 computer is going to take a while. It's not built for this. It'll still do it, right? The Prius will still do a quarter mile in a drag strip race. It's not what it was built to do, so you're probably not going to come in first place. Just saying. Set your expectations accordingly. Drag this down here. Okay, so we're right now, you can see temperatures rising. This is going to warm up for 10 minutes. And then finally, we'll get a benchmark number on the multi-core test. On the single core test, it's literally going to pick one of these cores. I don't know how it decides. And run the same exact test again, utilizing only one core, and then we'll see how that affects temps. Now here we've already hit 91 degrees Celsius on core 3. But all the efficiency cores or E-cores are all going to run cooler. You should know that. And our performance cores are going to run hotter. 91 is a good temperature that you want to peak at. You could actually go as high as 95 without worry. But you don't want it to be running into the 90s through your regular, normal, everyday operating. Like, you're going to kill the silicone. You're degrading your CPU quickly if you do that. You probably are also battling a lot of fan noise. This temperature should go up, and it could go up to 95. That's normal. It should not stay there for more than a few moments. That's where you have a problem. Or potentially, you're just putting a lot of wear and tear. You shouldn't be driving your car with your foot to the gas pedal all the way down to the ground all the time. You're going to kill your engine. You're going to kill your transmission. You're just going to wear that car out. You're not going to get good gas mileage. And it would be very impractical for you to drive the car that way outside of a racetrack. So if you want a race car, go buy a race car. But I guarantee you, it's going to cost a lot of money. So all of these things go hand in hand, and set your expectations according to, what you're buying and what you're spending and what you're planning to do with it. So while that runs, I think I can put camera 1 back and just move it over to the other corner. Put it over here. Martin Hogg joins us and says hello. And Martin joins us from Scotland. I guess I don't know why I'm over the taskbar. I can bring this down. Okay. My assessment of this machine so far is I'm pretty impressed with it, honestly. One of the things that I immediately am attracted to is just the overall size. I made a grilled cheese sandwich the other day that was maybe not quite as tall, but almost the same size as my grilled cheese sandwich, which I've done that comparison before. I love how thin this is. I do hear the fans. They are spinning up doing this test, but normally I don't even hear it at all. They're very, very quiet. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It's noticeable, but I don't have to talk over it. I definitely know it's on, and I can feel the heat coming out of the back of it. And if I put my hand down behind onto the desk is warm from that hot air just running over it. It's also reassuring, because if I don't hear the fans ramp up, I wonder, is the machine not, is the voltage set too low? Are we not getting everything out of the processor? But I wouldn't want that this hot with that fan running 100% of the time. Maybe if you're doing a particular task, maybe you're rendering a video. You've edited a video, now you're rendering it. And during the entire render time of that video, this thing ramps up. That's reassuring to me. That's what I want to happen. And that way I don't have to even watch the screen to see if the video rendering is done. I can listen. Hey, I don't hear the fan anymore. My video must be done. Especially if I'm sitting here while the video is rendering and I open up a tab and I'm reading the news or doing something else while the video renders on the same computer. And then I, because I'm sitting here, I notice, oh, that very quiet but noticeable fan noise just stopped. My video render must be done. I don't have to go back and check it periodically to check, is it done? Is it done? I should be able to just hear the CPU has dropped off, the turbo frequencies, and it's back to running normal again. That's a properly built computer. That's what it's supposed to do. That's what we're looking for. But when the fans go full speed, it shouldn't be so loud as to be distracting. So ACEMAGIC's done a very good job with controlling this. So far, I'm very impressed. And for that price, to get that much power, it's a hell of a value. Let me go full screen over here real quick, because I cannot see the current temps. Have we gotten any hotter than 91? No. I don't think we're going to get hotter than 91 for the rest of this test. And then when we run the single core, we'll check and see how that particular core performs. It will be a performance core. A single core test won't be an efficiency core. Those are slower. Think of a Prius as the efficiency car and a Chevy Corvette as the power car. Which one do you think gets better gas mileage? Which one do you think has a better cooling system? Which one do you think is faster and has more horsepower? Which one costs more? Same thing. Bill Stott suggests that I don't eat this. Yeah, it'd be pretty crunchy. The sourdough bread is actually a bigger piece of bread than, say, regular loaf of bread. So in one way, my grilled cheese sandwich is bigger than this. It's longer if I make it on sourdough. But it's maybe 2 grilled cheese sandwiches high. I think depending how much cheese you want to put on there, you can stack it up. Or if you throw lettuce and tomato and bacon on there too. I wouldn't, but you might. That might stack us up to be taller than the mini PC. I might be getting hungry. All of my references start to become food. Wonder what that means. It's actually, if you watched me run Cinebench before on budget and mid-range computers, you rarely see those boxes filling in that quickly. This is not a graphics test. This is a CPU test. The CPU is calculating all that. A lot of people misunderstand and think that we're measuring video performance when we're in fact measuring CPU performance on this test. It looks like we've got a minute and a half left on this warm-up, and then it'll finish its process and give us a number right here where those dots are. And I'll hear the fan get real quiet. And then we'll see where we're at, which right now we're the orange line here. So currently it just says running, and we'll see what our numbers are. It looks like our performance is close to a Xeon server processor from a few years ago, or an AMD Ryzen Threadripper 29. You know how much this chip was? This 2990WX. That was when that processor came out, cost a lot more than this mini computer. Progress. It's all progress and evolution of the technology. So we're not quite as fast as it, but we're going to get respectively close. Nothing will break your heart more than if any of you in the audience have ever bought a Threadripper like a 2990WX, and you see what this whole computer, how close it comes to its performance for the price difference, make you want to gouge your own eyes out. That is the fun part of this business, is just everything moves ahead so rapidly. And up until recently with the RAM and SSD shortages, you know, prices kept dropping. I still think the prices are great for what you're getting for the money compared to 10 years ago or 15 years ago. RAM is extraordinarily cheap. SSDs are, even at what you guys say is expensive, sorry, they're still cheaper today than they used to be, especially when those Gen 4 drives first came out. Ooh-wee. You wish you were paying these cheap prices. But, you know, all unhappiness is caused by comparison. Let's go to the second test. So we've got our results here. Let's do our single core test. Yeah, the fan absolutely is quiet now. I'll hit start and we'll start again on one core. You can usually tell which core it is. Just watch the temps. One of these cores is hotter than the others. And it looks like it's going to be core 3. So my guess is, and we can open Task Manager and verify, but it likely, for whatever reason, it's prioritizing core. Well, you know what? Yeah. And sometimes the neighboring cores will get sort of the neighboring heat causing them to run a little hotter, even if they're just because of their location on the chip. But yeah, these are all pretty low because they're being ignored. And this guy's doing all the work, number 3. And you can see that it hit 94 degrees Celsius. And remember, for me, on a mini PC, 95 is fine. As long as it doesn't stay there very long, it's just gonna kind of, if you know audio and you see your meters, remember audio meters, and they'd move up and down. And if your audio meters weren't sort of touching into the red, then your volume was too low. You weren't getting the full dynamic recording of the music. You always want, if you just made sure you never hit the red, your audio is too low. So you want to bounce into the red, but you don't want to stay in red or your audio is going to be oversaturated and distorted. In much the same way, these are our peak temperatures over here at the maximum. And just like an audio meter bouncing up and down, it shouldn't just stay up. Something's wrong if it's staying up. So a lot of the technology is very similar in what we're looking for. We talk about cars, we talk about audio, we talk about, you know, the processing power of the CPU and the heat that it generates. There's nothing to fix here. This is exactly working how it's supposed to. So far so good. So getting back to what I was saying, oh, let me jump back over here. The this ACEMAGIC, if we're at a $750 price point with 32 gigs and a fast Gen 4 1 terabyte drive with Windows 11 already installed, needs some updates, but there's no getting around that from any manufacturer, or even if you build it yourself. It seems like a solid deal for what you're getting for the money. If I had things I'd do better, I think the LAN connection should be a 2.5 gig. I think the opening of the unit could be easier. Not that it's difficult. They could have made it easier. I would have liked to have seen it completely tool-free, at least to get inside. Once you're inside, using tools is fine, but the fact that just opening this lid isn't enough, that you need a tool to then remove, even if it's just the metal plate, that metal plate should have a release lever or a locking mechanism so it can pop out. No tools. If they did those two things, I would be hard-pressed to find any way to improve this other than adding USB 4. The problem when you add USB 4, and the same problem as if you add DDR5, you're not looking at a $750 computer anymore. Not at this caliber. You can hit that price with a lower-end processor. But if you want this high-end of a processor, and you want USB 4, open your wallet up a little bit. Whether or not ACEMAGIC makes it, other manufacturers do make them that way, and they're going to be more money than this. So, do you have anything USB 4? That would be the next question. Out of curiosity, if you have anything USB 4, I'd like to know what it is. Because I don't think the only thing we've got USB 4 around here is an external NVMe enclosure, and I don't even use it. So it's here for testing purposes. I do have external SSD drives that are USB Type A connections, because they universally work on every system I've got. The Type C connectors, not every system's got it, and those that do don't all have USB 4. So for my purposes, I don't have any purpose for USB 4 yet. Andy thinks the multi-score was low, the multi-core score. Oh, I wasn't paying attention to what our score was. Let me go back. We got a score of 17,222. That puts it above a Threadripper 1950X. It puts it above an i9 9th Gen. This is an older test, so these results are going to be representative of samples of the time. So 14900HX Cinebench score. I don't know what it could be, but I don't think 17,222, which exceeds a 1950X Threadripper, is anything to shake a stick at. But I also don't know what range a 14900HX processor would fall into, depending on maybe some BIOS settings, right? So if we go into the BIOS and see if there's a performance setting to raise the wattage up, we're obviously going to raise up temperatures, minimal temperatures, and fan noise to get a few higher points. I don't like to let benchmarks dictate disappointment unless they are so extreme, you know, that there's cause that something's wrong. Because at the end of the day, what I care about is how does it do the tasks that I want it to do. If I'm going to edit video on this, if I'm going to, you know, take it off camera and actually use the darn thing, does it come up short for my needs? I can tell you, I don't have any business clients that would justify spending $750 on this when spending $400 or $500 on a mid-range will result, from their perspective, to be no different. They won't utilize all this power. So that's every business client I have, no exception. I don't have a business client that would require an i9 or a Ryzen 9. And it'd be very difficult to try and sell them, you know, and say, hey, you should spend a little extra to get more than you need. I really don't think they should. And my concern is you are adding, you know, like I hear that fan right now. So in the moments when they're doing something, it could be a Windows update, it could be in a big PDF file, and they hear this thing being louder than what they're used to, it's because it runs faster and hotter than what they're used to. And if you were to put this into, say, an i5 or Ryzen 5, would they not only save money, they also would be less likely to hear any noise because it would be a lower wattage and lower heat. So the customer would be happy spending less to get less. But, you know, until you actually use it for whatever purpose you are using it for, it's hard to know if it's coming up short or not, just based on the Cinebench results. But look at the single core. You notice that orange line is all the way at the top, meaning it's already above everything below. All these 11th gen, it's smoking all these 11th gen. We don't know what the number is, but we know it's bigger than the biggest number they have in their sample list. So, you know, and depending on what software you're using, it could be focused on single core use, meaning all those other cores are a waste of money for you, at least in that particular application, until the application gets changed or adapted to take advantage of multi-core. A lot of variables are at play here. It might be, hey, not interested for one person because of the software they use, or it could be, wow, that's way more power than I've ever seen before based on the software that they use. All things to keep in mind. W. Holmes said he's got the Acasis USB 4 NVMe enclosure, which is great, but rarely take advantage of the speed. Yeah, that's my point. So USB 4 is nice to have, but it's definitely not anything I need. And I don't have any customers who need it either. So I'm sure that will change at some point, but I don't know when. And when it does, I'll let you know, right? I'll say, oh, we got to make sure we have this. Now it's just a cherry on top. You know, it's nice to have it. I'll still enjoy my pie and ice cream with the whipped cream, and if it's got the little cherry on top, that's great. And if it doesn't, I'm still going to have a good meal, good dessert. Andy said the GM K-Tech K8 Plus had a Rheaton Alloy 9. What's he saying? Oh, he's saying all of those machines had USB 4. His GM K-Tech K8 Plus, his Rheaton Alloy 9, and his Minisform AberZ X1G, all with USB 4. Yes, like I said, they do make those, but do any of those have a 14900 processor? I don't think any of them do they? That's a pretty high-end flagship 14 gen mobile chip. It's not a cheap chip. It is for what you get, but I'm just saying, would you rather have faster input-output ports or a faster CPU? Kind of need them both, don't you? But maybe not. I don't know. It's I guess it depends if you're using your computer more for data transfer, for whatever reason, or if you're using it for internal computing. Nick Cavery said, I would have thought everything would be Gen 5 at this stage. Why not? Everything will be scalable based on consumption. When consumers start buying things in bulk and they got to have it, then they have to start manufacturing things in bulk. And as the quantities go up, economies of scale kick in and prices come down. I believe what's happened is most people aren't really seeing any difference between Gen 4 and Gen 5. Despite the fact that the speed is doubling, the human being in general can't sense it. There's no apparent noticeable difference. under the typical use case scenario, but they all can universally notice the price difference. So, well, you could scientifically say it's faster. It doesn't feel faster to most people. And a lot of people still have older computers that aren't going to be Gen 5 compatible regardless. And when it comes to enclosures and things of that nature, the Gen 5 is completely a waste of money. There's really nothing out there that uses Gen 5 to this day. As far as an external enclosure or port goes, you can't take advantage of it. You can pretty much saturate Gen 4 now. And then also you have potential heat-related problems along with the cost. And then the reality is most people can't tell the difference. So if you can't tell the difference, why would you pay extra? When I go to the grocery store and I'm in the produce section and they have the organic vegetables and the regular, there's a cucumber for 79 cents and there's an organic cucumber for $1.79. Can you tell me the difference? If I serve them to you, could you taste them and tell me which one is the organic one and which one isn't? I can't. So my joke is when someone says, what's the difference between the organic and the non-organic vegetables? It's about $1. That's how I feel, what my prediction is with why Gen 5 NVMe has not been accepted. It's just not enough systems running it, not enough people have upgraded. Most people are running older hardware that it's not modern enough to offer it. And then of course the cost with the addition that, hey, it doesn't really seem any faster. Windows is still booting the same amount of time, your apps are still loading in the same amount of time. So that's the general common answer. Those who notice the difference, that are willing to pay for it, make up a very small percentage of actual consumers that do any buying. So they don't have to manufacture as much. The cost of manufacturing goes up, supply and demand applies. But also with Gen 4 now, quite often you can get Gen 4 cheaper than Gen 3 for the same supply and demand. Most people, if this price is the same, will go for the Gen 4 drive. And most people can sense, like they can more likely sense that than they could going from Gen 4 to Gen 5 or Gen 3 to Gen 5. But it's a significant price difference. So why pay it? Unless there's some benefit there that you yourself experience, that's a hard sell. All right, our testing is done. Let's get back over here full screen quick. We're looking at 2,087 points on the single core, which is really, really good. And then back over to our temps, we hit a max of 94 overall, which again, it kept us below 95, which is my comfort level. And when it did hit those high temps, it was only on a couple cores and for a very brief moment in time, which is how it's supposed to work. So what I'll do is let me grab a screenshot of this. So I'll hit, what is it? Function print screen. Don't worry, it doesn't grab my camera. It's something OBS is doing. And I'll hit paste. And then we'll save these results. We'll go to desktop again. I'll call this Cinebench. That's a caps lock key, Carey. Cinebench R23 space results. I should not have to put the .jpeg. Sometimes I do, but I should just add it for. Close and close and close. Should have results right here. Yep, there you go. I'm happy with that. Again, you know, seeing the difference, it's 50% cooler under normal operation, and under intense operation can scale up to double its temp. That's some pretty good flexibility there. I like to see that, and without getting annoyingly loud. So overall, very happy with this. I think right now, since we're going to wrap up the video, I'm going to go and let Windows Update do some more updates here. Might as well. Don't worry if you get these retries. Sometimes an update's happening in the background while we force an update at the same time. Could be the same update, and there can be only one. So the others may fail because the same update already took place or precedent before the duplication took effect. You'll know if it's a problem if the same update retries over and over. More than likely, this 226.7602 and this Intel software component won't even retry anymore. And that's your reassurance that they were duplicates, and that's why the duplicates failed. All right, and then, well, don't tell me. Oh, there we go. So we are getting 25H2 now. That's awesome, great timing. So let me go full screen back on camera 1, and we'll wrap some things up today. All right, so if there's any final questions, anything you want to say quickly before we go, this is your time. Let me say thank you to Bebo and Buster and to Mark Gaines for your contributions during today's broadcast. Also, a super shout out to Maralina, our channel administrator. She takes care of all of our video notes and links and thumbnails and answers emails. And
don't forget Sable.
Sable the cat.
Yeah, she's hungry.
Who will make sure we all know when she's hungry. That's a priority. We all have to know this. If you want to reach out to us, our email address here at the bottom of the screen, showcasecreate@gmail.com, and Sable will get back to you. If you want to share any experiences you've had with tech, your own personal experiences, good or bad, we love to hear those stories when they're coming from real people who really experienced it. Also, if you have any problems or questions you want some help with, please email us. We love hearing from you guys. Furthermore, if you're watching the show after the fact and you have some questions, sometimes people are asking private, personal questions in the comment section. It's not appropriate. But if you want to email us directly, if it's not for public consumption, please don't post it in the comment section. How would you know? You should know. You should know a private conversation from a public conversation. If you're trying to ask me something, then ask me. Don't ask the comment section. If you want to ask the viewers, then use the comment section. But if you're asking me something directly, it's the wrong place. You want to use email for that. And we'll get back to you privately. Okay, we're happy to. And thank you for everybody in green for being members, because without you guys, well, I can promise you, based on YouTube alone, we'd either be corporate puppets right now, being told what we can say, collecting that corporate check, or we'd be shut down. Because the YouTube advertising paying the bills doesn't work anymore. Not since 2020. And that's effective across the entire platform. And it's unfortunately happening to all content creators. So they'll, content creators that do well on this platform financially probably are promoting a business, and they're using advertising. They're advertising themselves. They're saying, Jake Paul is saying, watch my boxing match, drink my, Prime drink. He's making all this money using YouTube as an advertising platform to sell tickets and drinks. And he's cleaning up really good, millions of dollars. If you have your own merch, you can make a few extra bucks selling merch, but for the most part, what people have to do in this kind of field is get a corporate sponsor to pay for everything. But they also control everything, including the words you say, when you broadcast, how you say it, and making sure that they audit everything before you're allowed to show it to the audience. Because they don't, if they're paying for it, they want control of it. Since you guys are paying for the channel, you guys control it. And the way that you make yourself known and your opinions known is you email us. That's the best way. And we love hearing from you guys. Even if you're not in green, it doesn't matter. If you're just a regular viewer looking for a little help or suggestions, they're always welcome. And don't be shy. Thank you again to ACEMAGIC for sending us the unit. We have another unit from ACEMAGIC to review called the K1. So if you say, well, that's all well and good, but I don't need that much power and I don't want to spend that much money, which, by the way, $750 on this is a great deal. But still, you go to the other end, we go to the budget line. Now, budget machines still exist. It's just they're not $150 anymore. Budget machines are between $250 and $300 these days. That's still a budget machine. So we have a budget machine here called the K1, and I do believe they've had multiple variations of hardware in these K1s, and the K1s have been out, I think, for a few years. So I'll be very interested to see how ours is configured. I know they have AMD versions, they have Intel versions, and then within those versions they have versions. So which one did we get and how much does it cost? Well, ideally we'll find out this time next week. Sunday, I think, is when we'll schedule it. Tomorrow, again, is our members only video. And then we'll see how our friends are doing, like Scott Merrill, Ask Your Computer guy. Doug Betts, we haven't checked in with him for a while, see how he's doing. And if there's availability to have them on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we may do an interview. Friday, I want to follow up on the Windows ISO to see if it's been updated. Because if they say it's the third Tuesday, I may not have time Tuesday to do it, but Friday for sure. And then that would lead us then to Sunday for the next. That also buys me a little window of time, because we're also expecting a few other machines to come in, but we don't have any tracking info. So they can all come in at the same time, or they may not come in this month. I don't know yet. So hopefully things will come in time, and that does buy us a week of opportunity to receive some items. And if there are items that we can afford that you'd like to see reviewed, there's no harm in suggesting them. I mean, I might tell you I'd love to do it, but I can't afford it. But you know, that's not a rejection. On the other hand, you might alert me to something I hadn't thought of before that we can afford, and if that's the case, we'll absolutely do it. In the meantime, we're just reaching out to some companies. I think GMK Tech is sending us something, or they're supposed to. I don't even know if it's been sent. And then we haven't heard from Paladin or Wowie in a while, so we need to check in with them. And we also, you know who we haven't heard from? I'm telling you this mostly to Mara, because she's the one that's got to do the work. We need to reach out to our friends over at Nemo. We haven't heard anything from them lately. They were burying us with reviews. So we just need to remind them, hey, we're still here. You got anything new? I'd be surprised if they didn't, but you know, with the downturn and prices going up and sales going down, the innovation and new products is to be expected. It won't be as aggressive as it was. But when we don't hear from them for a while, we always have to check in and make sure everything's okay. You're not mad at me, are you? Sometimes, you know, you send somebody a text, you don't get a response, and you think, what did I do to upset them? And you did nothing. They just were busy and forgot to get back to you. I always assume the lighter side of that, because in my experience, it's usually all it is. In any event, we'll put some irons in the fire there. And let's see, Phil Stodd said Micro Center has the Adaman G1 for $1,500. We did, Mara and I stopped by Micro Center in Phoenix. We went to the Renaissance Festival yesterday, and on the way home, we stopped at Micro Center. And this was a Saturday evening, probably about 8 o'clock at night. And I can't believe there were people shopping. In fact, as we were walking in, someone was wheeling a big dolly just loaded with, it had to be a couple $1,000s worth of computer equipment out to their car. Wow, somebody's got money. And then people were looking at all the gaming PCs and everything. And if anybody recognized me, nobody said anything. So we wandered through the store anonymously, completely ignored. They're supposed to have a stage there where people can do presentations like live on YouTube, but I don't know where it is. They kind of have their Genius Bar, whatever they call it. Then they have a bunch of monitors and laptops. And as you go around, and they have a lot of 3D printers. I was surprised, a couple aisles of 3D printers. They have a whole section for TP-Link routers They have a whole section for Netgear routers. They have a bunch of cases on display. There must have been 100 different cases, all open and on display, computer cases. I mean, that's some serious inventory. They had locked glass doors with floor-to-ceiling video cards. There's no shortage. They're there. A bunch of televisions. Like, I didn't think they sold televisions. That's my first time in a Micro Center. They had a giant keyboard, like size of this desk. Each key was like this big. Mara was like trying to spell her name, and she was loving it. She's like, "We need to get one of these." That whole section of webcams and even digital cameras, a little section of just good old-fashioned digital cameras and DSLRs. Their webcam selection was pretty impressive. They have a whole DJI section, which I thought was interesting. Not a section, but, you know, all put together at a certain third of an aisle. It was a little smaller than I thought it would be, but very well stocked, and I thought the place would be empty given the economy. But no, I mean, there was, every other aisle had somebody in it. And a lot of interest in gaming, a lot of looking at the pretty lights and you know, overhearing somebody go, "Oh, you really you want to look at the Alienware stuff? That's good stuff." Just like, la 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 la. Just don't listen. Just keep walking. These people are living a different life. It's okay. But I don't see any reason to go back. You know, the prices weren't bad. They had a little cable tester. You get those on Amazon for under $10, where you've got the little, you know, network cable, Ethernet cable testers. $7.96. I'm like, wow, that's a really good price. That's similar to Amazon's pricing. I thought they would be more money there, but their prices were actually surprisingly low at the few things I knew the prices online versus what they were selling. I didn't look at much as far as price goes. Like the price of the cases, I wasn't really paying attention. But yeah, they must have had 3 aisles of cases from floor to ceiling, all opened and on display. No two are alike. I was like, wow, that's a lot of cases. Didn't see anybody buying any. They had them there. Phil Stott said, Micro Center is only 50 miles from me, but it takes 2 hours to travel there. So the Micro Center, it's probably a good 25 miles from us. But in Phoenix, it's, you know, it's well, it's more than a half hour. It's probably 40 minutes to get there. And that's on a weekend. You know, if you go during the day, during a business day, yeah, you're going to be hitting every red light. The Renaissance Festival is out in a city called Gold Canyon, which is outside of the Phoenix municipality. You're out in the middle of nowhere, no cell phone service. And traffic was backed up in the middle of nowhere to get into the parking lot. And it took us 2 hours. If there was no Renaissance Fair and we didn't have to wait in this line of cars, it should be a little over an hour. That's how long we were stop and move up and stop and move. And it's so weird when you're in the middle of nowhere. That also happens at Burning Man, when you go out to the middle of the Nevada desert, the Black Rock Desert, and traffic is backed up for 3 hours in the middle of nowhere because everybody's waiting to turn into the parking lot and you know, getting people parked and such. And then you've got people that don't want to wait in the line. They want to skip past everybody and jump in front. That's so annoying. So we just, you know, I get in line, I get right on the bumper of the car in front of me. And I'm like, nobody's getting in front of me. If you are so lost that you don't know where the entrance is and you think that whole line of cars is just there to look at, and you're too lazy or you're better than the rest of us, that you're not going to wait in the line, you ain't cutting in front of me. You might cut in front of somebody in front of me, but it ain't going to be in front of me. Make me wait longer because I was honest, you know. So those people will have to go down and they have to make a U-turn all the way back another mile and then try again. And even back a mile, you may not be back far enough. And if you just stop and wait for an opening because you didn't go to the back, there's a lot of people that aren't interested in the rent fair trying to get by. It's only a 2-lane road, and you will stop all traffic, and the police will write you a ticket for that. And they police that up and down and say, no, you're going to have to go all the way up, come back, and go 2 miles down instead, and flip around again and do that. Or as you drive up, maybe somebody's not paying attention and there's a gap and you can jump into it. But once you're parked and you're out of the car, it's a fun event. If you've never been, it's like a medieval state fair. It's kind of fun. They have them all over the world. They've got them not only in the United States, they've got them all over. It's fun. Got Mara a giant turkey leg, which she was absolutely disgusted by. And how much was the turkey leg? $17. Roasted turkey leg. On the other hand, it was free parking, so call that a wash. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for me for today. Thank you all for watching. Thanks to all of our members, as always. And we'll see the members tomorrow, every Monday, members only, 1 o'clock. We hope you'll join us then. I'm going to just let this continue to update. And, I don't think there's anything to report on it. I think we're pretty well done. I don't think it needs a part 2. But if you have any questions that, about this specific device before it gets put away and put on a shelf, please do ask us sooner rather than later. And if anything changes with regards to getting all the updates, if I find anything unexpected, I'll follow up. But I honestly think it's a pretty solid machine, and it's a good value for what it is. That's my conclusion. So again, we thank ACEMAGIC for sending it to us. That's going to wrap it up. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you all. We'll see the members tomorrow. Everybody else we'll see at the latest on Friday. But do watch the schedule, because if somebody's available to interview, we'll bring them on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. That's open right now. All right. Until next time. Bye for now.